Book 1, The Ultimate Self-Esteem Guide, by Jeffrey Powell. And Book 2, Mind Control Mastery, by Jeffrey Powell. Book 1, The Ultimate Self-Esteem Guide, by Jeffrey Powell. Steps to Building Self-Esteem, Confidence and Inner Strength. Introduction. I want to thank you and congratulate you for downloading the book, The Ultimate Self-Esteem Guide, Steps to Building Self-Esteem, Confidence and Inner Strength. This book contains proven steps and strategies on how to enhance your confidence in yourself. It is a common belief that self-confidence is essential for you to become successful in life, but it is a misconception that people are born with confidence. Self-confidence is a skill that you can learn. With time and effort, you can become a self-confident person who is able to live the life that you want for yourself. I hope that this book, you will find the inspiration and the tools you need in building your self-esteem, confidence and inner strength. Thanks again for downloading this book. I hope you enjoy it. Chapter 1, What is Self-Confidence? Self-confidence is the strong and rational belief in your own self. It involves awareness of your own strengths and capabilities. It is an optimistic state of mind that leans toward the thought that you are equipped with all the required resources to positively act in response to all the challenges and obstacles that life will throw at you. The level of your self-confidence is a result of how you perceive your own self. This has a significant influence on other people's perception of you. How others relate and react to you is a reflection of your own self-perception. Thus, if you have low self-esteem, it can result to other people having a difficult time believing in your capabilities. You have low self-esteem when you focus too much on your own negative features and traits and on the things that you seem to be doing wrong. This means that you can really be your own worst adversary. On the other hand, people who exude self-confidence do not depend too much on other people's approval and appreciation. Yes, they do listen to and respect other people's opinions, but at the end of the day, self-confident people make their own decisions. Just like most of us, people who have high self-confidence have realistic and practical goals. Their dreams are practical and reasonable and they chase their dreams. They are not exempt from obstacles and challenges. But their difference lies in what they do when things don't happen according to their plan. They step back, evaluate the situation, determine the options that are available to them, and take the option that they believe is the best for them. It is also possible that in spite of all the efforts that they have given, things still do not go according to their plan. When this happens, confident people are able to come to the realization that something cannot really be done, and they can willingly accept the fact that they cannot always have everything they want. With this acceptance, they are able to move forward and become more confident because they know that they have become better persons because of the lessons that they have learned from their prior experiences. Failures do not keep them down. Despite numerous failures, they can still have the excitement to embark upon new goals and objectives. The fervent belief in their own abilities continues to be undamaged because they know that they have become stronger and wiser. What self-confidence is not? Let me tell you this fact: all of us were not born with innate self-confidence. This means that all of us will need enough time not only to develop our self-confidence but to nurture it as well. Additionally, there are no select people who can own confidence. All of us can gain access to both self-confidence and positive attitude. It is up to each one of us to determine if there is lack of self-confidence and work on enhancing it. Over the recent years, It has become apparent that more and more people have become obsessed with self-confidence, which makes it seem like self-confidence is some kind of magical concoction that can help us to solve all our problems. But you need to understand that confidence, on its own, will not direct you towards the life that you dream for yourself and your family. Primarily, you must have the will to take action. You also need to work on your other traits such as determination, patience, rational reasoning, and an entire range of other traits for you to become successful. It is also ideal if you can have reliable mentors who can guide you along the way. Confidence is the first critical step, but the journey towards success is long. When we look at a highly confident person, it is quite easy to think that that person is confident in all aspects of his personality. But confidence is not really all-inclusive. For instance, well-renowned author Robert Kiyosaki, who wrote Rich Dad, Poor Dad, is very confident when it comes to his business and entrepreneurial abilities. But he has honestly admitted that he used to struggle in his academic subjects while still in school. There are people who may be quite confident in their writing skills, but when you ask them to deal with numbers and spreadsheets, they can be instantaneously transported away from anything that is numbers. Always keep in mind that confidence is not all-inclusive and it is not all-encompassing. Misleading ideas about self-confidence during the past decades. Several wrong ideas about self-confidence have continued to emerge. People started to think that self-confidence is something intrinsic or innate. Well, right now, I am going to tell you that it is not true at all. Just imagine how insecurity has become one of the most common issues of men and women alike. You need to be aware that this thought is wrong. Confidence is a skill that you can learn. There are also people who believe that when they lose their self-confidence, they will become insecure for the rest of their lives. This is another wrong idea. Yes, it will take time and effort from you to rebuild your self-confidence, but it is very possible for you to prevail over your insecurities if you have the will to do it. Lastly, there are people who believe that they can only become self-confident when they have conquered a new obstacle or challenge. You need to know that there is a lot more to being self-confident than being able to achieve a goal. Self-confidence and effectiveness. A lot of people equate self-confidence with success. Being successful makes a person self-confident, and similarly, self-confidence often seems to lead a person to success. But you should be careful not to overgeneralize. You need to combine specific skills, other than self-confidence, and general skills and abilities for you to become both effective and efficient in various situations. If you are to succeed in a project that requires technical skills, you need to make sure that you are properly trained so you can become competent in that skill. You may also have to be competent in certain general skills like how to interview, provide feedback and evaluate strong and weak areas. There are times when a person can become overconfident and disregard essential steps like preparation and practice. You should also avoid being overly confident because it can lead to poor performance and poor efficiency. You need to learn how you can maintain balance and achieve right timing. There are situations that call for humility, so you can acknowledge that you lack skills and knowledge over a specific subject matter. This will then allow you to look for suggestions and to accept advice and recommendations from other people. When you have acquired enough knowledge and information, you will be the more confident to study and consider all perspective and make wise decisions. Self-confidence and ability. Self-confidence and ability always come hand in hand. You can feel confident when facing a difficult situation if you know that you have the ability to handle it, especially because you have dealt with the same situation in the past. You are less likely to become self-confident when you face a particular situation for the very first time and you have very little or even zero knowledge about the situation. This is especially true when you have hesitations about your ability or you have previous experiences wherein you failed in similar situations. To put it simply, competent skills result to a successful endeavor which can then lead to an enhanced self-confidence. Similarly, incompetent skills often result to failed endeavors which can then lead to reduced self-confidence. Chapter 2, How Your Early Years Shaped You. Behavioral scientists use the word conditioning, which is frequently linked to how we were raised as a child by our families. Psychologists have always believed in the argument that the attitudes of your own parents are essential to how you feel about yourself, particularly during your childhood. Your parents played a critical role in the development, or lack thereof, of your self-confidence during your early years. Those early years become the foundation that determines whether you will grow up to be a well-rounded adolescent and a mature adult. Imagine that you are a small child who lives in a house with perfectionist parents who have unrealistic expectations. The parents are so tough on themselves and they also require you to keep the high standards that already seem impossible to meet. At a very young age, it appears that your parents have already set you up for failure. Can you imagine the negative impact it can have on your self-confidence? You will grow up having fears that can restrict you from exploring your full potential because you are using the idealistic standards that have been set by your parents. Imagine yourself in a different setup where the parents are recognized in their own lines of work. Let us say that they are lawyers and they have expectations that you will pursue the same career. During high school, you told them that you have plans of getting into another profession and you want to become a successful chef. That is when the arguments at home ensued. They discouraged you from exploring your talents, asserting your individualism, and they dissuaded you by always looking for faults and mistakes by saying things like, "You don't cook well, you are better off as a lawyer." It is very often that we see parents being overly protective when it comes to their children. As much as possible, they want to protect their kids from cruel realities in life. The parents love them very much, but sometimes to a fault that their kids become very dependent on their parents for the rest of their lives. When parents are overprotective of their children and prevent them from committing errors, the children will not become wise on their own because they never learn from the mistakes and errors that we all commit in life. The friends and role models that you choose can also have an influence in your life. During adolescence, can you recall how you have always wanted to become a member of the most popular group in school? You wanted to be looked up to as one of the most popular kids in school. You may have even tried to copy how they stand, sit and walk. You wanted to wear the clothes that they wear and go to the places where they usually hang out. But as you grow older, you start to realize that you can get more fulfillment when you just try to be yourself instead of being a mere replica of other people. Parents and peers play a significant role in a child's life. They should lead by example and show the child how to feel good about himself or herself, become an independent thinker, overcome obstacles, and most importantly, become self-confident. Parents should become the living proofs that it is possible to become successful when you are being yourself. Chapter 3, What is Self-Esteem? Your self-confidence involves a general trust you have in yourself and a sincere liking of your own self. Many people use self-confidence, self-esteem, and self-worth interchangeably. Eric Berne, a psychologist from the US, used common words to show the esteem wherein we look upon other people and our own selves. He said that you normally think whether you are okay or not okay. As stated by Eric Berne, When we are still very young, we all experience a phase in our lives wherein we have low self-esteem and we believe that we are not okay. After you go through a sequence of positive and encouraging experiences, you begin to like yourself more and you begin to hold yourself with higher esteem wherein you feel that you are okay. Furthermore, Eric Berne said that the great difference is in how people see themselves in general. There are those who always say affirmations to themselves by saying, "I am okay." But there are also people who normally see themselves as not being okay. But the level of a person's self-esteem can vary from time to time depending on the particular situation that the person is in. When a person is successful in completing a task, his level of self-esteem may increase. Similarly, when a person faces failure and criticisms, this can actually have a negative effect on his or her self-esteem. But outside these circumstances, there are people who have higher levels of self-esteem, therefore self-confidence, compared to other people. Positive thinking, the quality of your thoughts, actually has an effect on your self-esteem and self-confidence. When you are confronted by challenges, your mind may become filled with negative and destructive thoughts like, "I cannot do this. I will be a laughingstock. I am so stupid. I am such a hothead. I know my anger will get me into trouble sooner or later. Life is so unfair." Your negative and destructive thoughts have a tendency to enfeeble your self-confidence and result in your inability to properly function in many situations. You can do the following techniques to overcome the negative thoughts that keep haunting your mind. Pursue the truth. More often than not, your negatives are merely founded on deceiving and exaggerated notions. Could you really believe this statement? Everyone else could do this perfectly except me. Do you really believe the statement, "I am so stupid"? I am sure that these two statements are untrue, which makes them useless when you utter them. Courageously face your fears. When you are so used to believing overstated thoughts and concerns and that good things do not happen in your life, you can become very fearful and anxious. And then you refuse confronting your fears because you are scared that you will only commit horrible mistakes. You fear that everyone will laugh at you. But if people laughing at you will be the worst thing that could happen, then why don't you give whatever you fear a try? Always send positive thoughts. One of the easiest things you can do to get rid of your negative thoughts is to replace them with positive ones. You need to shift your mind into more reasonable, practical and encouraging messages that can help you in attaining your goals. Chapter 4, How to Overcome Your Self-Defeating Thoughts. Acknowledging the wrong ideas that you might have about self-confidence is just the first step in prevailing over your low self-esteem. Part of this acknowledgement is the necessity for a paradigm shift. According to Stephen Covey, the author of the highly successful book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, paradigm is the way we see the world, not in terms of our visual sight, but in terms of perceiving, understanding and interpreting. An example of a self-defeating thought is one that centers on perfectionism. Have you ever worked with a boss who is a perfectionist? When you submit a report, your boss will read it, write his comments and send it back to you. Well, it seems like there is nothing wrong with this. And you are right, except when your boss sends the report to and fro for more than a dozen times. If you are in this situation, what will you do? If you confront a perfectionist boss, he is likely to tell you that he just wants everything to be in perfect condition and that he wants to be excellent in all aspects of work. That is the only acceptable time when he can say he has accomplished something. That poor boss is actually living in a paradigm that maintains that one can only gain confidence when he or she has achieved accomplishments, or even worse, when one has achieved perfection. But the reality is that all of us commit errors and mistakes at one time or another, and we learn our lessons from those mistakes. Yes, you must always practice care and prudence when you perform your tasks, but your sense of self-worth should be beyond your outputs and concrete accomplishments. Anthony Robbins, another renowned author and life coach, relates paradigms with our belief systems. He said, "It influences how you think and feel every moment you're alive. It determines what you will do and what you will not do. It determines how you feel about anything that occurs in your life. That force is your beliefs." How do you define yourself? A lot of people's definitions of themselves are rooted on what other people say about them or want from them instead of what they truly want for themselves. There was a time when a traditional Japanese woman who is married would define herself as a submissive wife who has to yield to the caprices and approval of her husband. He will serve him and take care of him while disregarding the fact that she herself has her own separate identity which does not require any approval from anybody else. You need to have that strong belief that you have what it takes to live your life to the fullest of your potentials. There are people who merely live for the appreciation of other people. They will always ask, "Do you think I am beautiful?" Or, "In your opinion, which dress will look good on me?" Another indication of this sad condition is the struggle that you might have in receiving compliments from other people. You can hear them say, "You think the dress I am wearing is beautiful? Oh, it is but an old one." There are some psychologists who frequently refer to the beliefs of a person as internal dialogues, the dialogues that run inside your head 24 hours per day, 7 days a week. Someone who has low self-esteem and a discouraged morale often have pessimistic internal dialogues that are based on mistaken paradigms and harmful beliefs. One favored dialogue is the reenactment of the past. "I was a failure in the past," which means that I will always be a failure. Take the advice given by Anthony Robbins, your past does not equal your future. Whatever happened in the past is done and over with. Whatever mistakes you committed in the past should not hinder you from living a fulfilling and successful life. You just need to make the effort of stopping the destructive dialogues you have with yourself. In order for you to boost your self-confidence, you need to believe in yourself. When you have belief in yourself, you will be able to succeed in any endeavor that you wish to undertake, and you will achieve whatever goal you set your mind to attain. Yes, there is no guarantee that you will succeed during your first attempt, but you will have the confidence to continue trying until you have achieved your goal. Here are some of the most common destructive beliefs that people have and which you should stay away from. The all or nothing principle. I will be a total failure if my report is imperfect. Seeing just the dark clouds, which are also referred to as the magnification of the negative while diminishing the positive. You are guilty of this when you focus too much on one negative comment or criticism that you hear someone say to you. Because of that one comment, you can forget all your other good and positive features, accepting all your feelings as truth, even without much consideration. I feel so ugly. It must be the truth. I feel clumsy. It must be the truth. Giving too much emphasis on should statements. Statements that include the word should normally reflect the standards of other people. Everyone should create a career plan before going to college. I don't have a career plan, therefore something must be wrong with me. Labeling yourself such as, I am such a loser. Difficulty in accepting our praise or compliment, like ignoring someone who tells you that you look beautiful today. Chapter 5, Steps in Building Your Self-Confidence. Keep a journal. You will be able to make a valuable analysis of yourself when you keep a personal journal or a diary where you can record your insights about self-confidence. Jot down any thought that comes to mind. It is also ideal if you can try reflecting on the things that stop you from achieving your goals in life. Dr. Gordon MacDonald, the president of the InterVarsity Christian Fellowship, explained the importance of sustaining this practice, which can be considered spiritual. For many years, I have kept a daily journal of what I am doing, why am I doing it, and what the results are. Just forcing it onto paper makes me ask what is going on in my life. When you make the effort of keeping your journal, you will be able to make an impartial analysis of your own self, including your thoughts, feelings and behaviors. But you need to be aware that journal writing does not really work for everyone. If you find out after trying out journal writing that does not really enhance your self-confidence, you can check out a different technique. Regularly charge. You need to make sure that your schedule includes some time for you to be alone so you can renew your mental, physical and spiritual self. Do not use the excuse that you are very busy for not being able to spend even just a few minutes to relax on your own in a quiet and safe place. A well-known Canadian pianist, Glenn Gould, once said that, for every hour that you spend in the company of other human beings you need X number of hours alone. Now what that X represents, I don't really know. It might be 2 7/8 or 7 2/8, but it's a substantial ratio. Regularly perform self-evaluation. You need to learn how to make an objective assessment of yourself. When you are able to do so, you will avoid being in the endless state of confusion that normally comes with being dependent on the views and opinions of other people. When you are able to internally focus on your thoughts and feelings about your own behaviors, lifestyle and the work that you do, you will gain a strong sense of being self-aware. This will give you freedom and you will no longer have to give away your personal power to others. Love and completely accept yourself. When you start analyzing and assessing yourself, you will realize that you have a number of weaknesses. Do not feel discouraged by this realization. You need to accept the fact that, like all other human beings, you have your own strengths and weaknesses. You need to start learning how to embrace and completely accept yourself, including your strengths and flaws. All of us have our own unique characteristics, attributes, skills and abilities. All of us are here on earth for varying reasons, so never ever compare yourself to other people. You can use your journal to make a list of your qualities that make you unique as a person. Jot down what specific things interest you, what your preferences are, what you think your strengths are which make you unique. Take pride in your accomplishments and celebrate your individuality. When you see yourself in this light, your self-confidence can instantly be enhanced. Focus on your strong points instead of on your weak points. Self-confidence cannot be generated from the outside. It can only come from within you. Therefore, you need to make the effort of focusing on the positive things about you. Whatever mistakes or failures you have experienced in the past, always keep in mind that they do not define who you are. You, like everyone else, can change your future. I want you to write 10 positive or strong points that you have. Do it right now. If you cannot complete the list, go back to your journal and you will be amazed to see that there are a lot of positive things about you. Did you stand up for a colleague who cannot speak for herself in front of your boss? Do you like spending time with children? Were you able to submit an urgent report despite the tight deadline? Focus on your strengths and potentials. If you take the time to reflect and really think, you will find a lot of reasons to love and have faith in yourself. Be your own #1 fan. Celebrate all the positive things that you have accomplished, no matter how trivial they may seem. Start looking at yourself as someone who is truly special. Prevail over your fears and doubts. There are some people who hide behind their insecurities. They constantly think that they will never become successful in any endeavor. Those insecurities can make them prisoners in their own lives because they cannot find the courage to step out into the world and explore their potentials. Always remember, if you have not taken a single step to try something new, you can never tell whether you will really fail or not. For example, your boss informed you that he will promote you to become a supervisor in your department. If you are filled with fears and doubts, you will decline the promotion because you are afraid that you will just make a fool out of yourself when you start supervising your peers. On the other hand, if you have confidence in yourself, you will not think twice and readily accept the promotion. You know that you may not know everything yet about being a good supervisor, but you are willing to learn. Do not let your fears and doubts hinder you from achieving your full potentials. Constantly motivate yourself. Remember, you are your own ally, your #1 fan. Whatever activity you are about to do, presenting to a client or going to a job interview, you always have to encourage yourself and say that you can do it. Tell yourself that you can face and handle whatever outcome your efforts will yield. The important thing to remember is to always do your best in whatever task you undertake. At the end of each day, write in your journal at least 5 things that you think you did well during the day. When you are able to sustain this daily habit, you will strengthen your belief in yourself and you will be able to convince yourself that you are meant to succeed and nothing else. When you are feeling down and discouraged, use positive self-talk so you will be able to replace the negative thoughts that fill your mind with constructive thoughts. For instance, when you catch yourself blaming yourself for a blunder that you did in front of the whole committee, accept the error and commit to yourself that you will avoid doing the same mistake in the future. Tell yourself that you have learned your lesson and you will be able to better handle a similar situation in the future. Without your permission, negative thoughts cannot dwell inside your mind. Learn how to kick them out as soon as you catch them lurking inside your head. Chapter 6, Importance of Self-Esteem. For more than 100 years, it has been an established fact that the emotional life of the children is strongly influenced by his or her learning, behavior, and interpersonal relations. The latest studies underscore the great importance of the early years of childhood as a vital period to help develop the future self-esteem and mental health of the child. This book section will provide you with some of the important elements that can help promote a strong foundation for high self-esteem among children. Children who have an optimal level of self-esteem will feel that those who are important in their lives truly love them, accept them, and protect them. Children with this level of self-esteem are highly assured of their safety and their well-being. On the other hand, those who have low self-esteem typically feel that they are unaccepted, unloved, and unwanted. These feelings will eventually lead to depression, disciplinary problems, and learning disabilities later on in their life. Given these premises, self-esteem is considered important because of the following reasons. This allows you to be in full control of your entire life. In relation to this will help you do what you want. Positive self-esteem serves as the source of optimal mental health. Self-esteem is a vital part of personal happiness. Some of the ways that you can achieve this type of feeling is through achievement of your desires and fulfillment of your relationships. This can provide you with clarity. This certain clarity can help you recognize the qualities that can make you stand out from the rest. Because of self-esteem, it will be easier for you to believe in yourself. It is also through a high level of self-esteem that you will know you are capable and lovable. You will live for a reason and will consider yourself as a valuable person. You can readily take on new challenges without much difficulty. Also, you have the tendency to handle criticism well. High self-esteem can permit you to act independently. In turn, it will be easier for you to assume responsibility for your desires, goals, and actions. Positive self-esteem will enable you to have sense of direction and control. Because of this, you have the ability to approach problems coming from a different perspective. This also permits you to make the correct choices and act on them accordingly. You do not compare yourself to other people because you have high self-confidence. Even if you committed a mistake, you can still feel pride and respect for yourself. Having a high level of self-esteem is considered as the initial step in believing in yourself. In the long run, this can help you build up self-confidence. You truly believe that you are worthy of respect and happiness. Self-esteem is considered as a complex concept composed of various elements. If you let these elements work together, you will stand a better chance of working with your children more effectively to promote a high level of self-esteem for them. Effective role modeling can help improve social learning and promote positive competency for the children. When they have established role models, they find it easier to be caring and productive individuals. It will take some time to nurture the children. They need lots of free time with their loved ones and with other people who truly enjoy being with them. In this regard, teachers, child care professionals, and parents typically play a major role in strengthening the self-esteem of children. You can further help improve their level of self-esteem through modeling by expressing your appreciation for them, taking their opinions and views seriously, and treating them respectfully. You can also help develop and maintain the children's self-esteem by assisting him or her in coping up with difficult situations. There are various coping strategies that the children may develop over time. Some of these include dealing with stress, resolving conflict, managing anger, and sharing. During times of crisis or disappointment, you can help strengthen the weakened self-esteem of the children by letting him or her know that the level of support and love for them is constant. As soon as the crisis passes, you may assist the children by helping them reflect on what went wrong in the first place. The next time the problem takes place, your children can utilize the obtained knowledge to help them overcome the past difficulties. Appreciation for the children is a key element in promoting a better foundation of self-esteem. Your children's sense of self-worth will most likely deepen when you respond to their efforts and interests with great appreciation rather than just mere praise. However, you should take note that excessive flattery and praise can only raise some doubts in children. Therefore, if you keep on heaping praise on them without real meaning, the children will just eventually dismiss you as someone whom they cannot believe in. Boundaries can help promote a deep sense of security for the children if implemented correctly. Reasonable and consistent limits can help your children feel safe and feel likable just like a good person. Typically, children will hardly strive to meet certain standards that you have set for them. They also will not curb their own urgent impulses. Also, they will not aim to perform extra effort. Unless the standards that you have set are achievable for their current developmental stages, they can understand the limits that you have set. In the long run, this will enable them to respect and like you. Communication can serve as the vehicle for improvement of intellectual development that can eventually help improve the levels of self-esteem. This element can also serve as a means to exchange information, share feelings, and develop strong emotional bonds over a given period of time. A family member or a parent who encouragingly talks to the children about various things that they are thinking, feeling, and doing can help enhance their language development. In the long run, this can help them build up the confidence that stems from their independence. Commitment to the children can help promote the solid sense of protection that they currently perceive. These children require at least one responsive and reliable adult. This adult should be available and connected to them on a long-term basis. Without this attachment, the children are less likely to learn how to trust. This will make them eventually suffer from the pain of having broken trust. In the long run, they may even learn not to trust anyone again. In turn, this can permanently damage their ability to develop meaningful and productive relationships. This may include relationships with teachers and child care professionals. Additionally, children who do not have adults to count on and to provide comfort for them will not feel lovable. As a consequence, they will not behave as if they are potentially lovable if given the right amount of love and care. Because they have never absorbed compassion and never experienced this in the first place, these children have none to give. A caring and warm adult at times can tip the balance between children who learn and children who learn to fail. Chapter 7, Types of Self-Esteem. The level of esteem may differ from one person to another. Therefore, self-esteem may be further divided into different categories. In this book section, you will learn more about the types of self-esteem, what each type may mean. You can easily break down self-esteem types into 3 standard classifications. These are the worthiness-based self-esteem, competence-based self-esteem, and combined worthiness and competence self-esteem. What eventually emerge from these classifications are the 4 main categories that you can place yourself into. These are the following categories: high self-esteem, low self-esteem, competence-based self-esteem, worthiness-based self-esteem. Before you proceed with the subtypes of self-esteem, you have to determine the 2 main components that you can find in each category. These are competence and worthiness. Competence is the level of your abilities when you perform something in your job, sport, and other areas of your life. This is an easily observable and rated aspect. This has 2 extremes: highly successful performance and very poor performance. On the other hand, worthiness can be defined as an internal feeling. This can help you determine how you feel about yourself. The 2 extremes of this component are the extremely high sense of worth and the very depressed and self-hating state. Some experts tend to place these 2 components and the 4 main categories into a diagram to make things easier to understand. Worthiness is typically treated as a y-axis. On the other hand, competence takes on the role of the x-axis. Keeping these facts in mind, the extremes for both worthiness and competence are set at values of +10 and -10. Given these values, the intersection yields 0 as the result from the x-axis and the y-axis. This denotes an average level of a combination of worthiness and competence. Keeping these facts in mind, you can finally set up the categories of self-esteem as 4 main quadrants. Low self-esteem has a quadrant location of -10, -10. A person with low self-esteem has poor belief in both his self-competence and self-worth. They constantly feel insecure about themselves. Additionally, they are very timid and cautious. They avoid conflict and have poor initiative. Usually, they suffer from a lot of depression and anxiety. People with classical low self-esteem are highly related with some classifications found among the 24 various clinical conditions that you can find in DSM-IV. Typically, low self-esteem is connected to depression, attention deficit disorder, eating disorders, and anxiety disorders. On the other hand, negativistic self-esteem falls under the -5 quadrant. People classified under this category usually have a negative outlook in life. They also see the bad in things that may give them a chance for either a success or a failure. However, this is not considered debilitating to live with. People who belong under this category want things that those who belong in the high esteem classification want as well. However, the negativistic people are too fearful or concerned in preserving their current mental state. This makes them avoid taking risks to try something new. To help them avoid taking risks, they utilize tactics like harshly judging things, limiting themselves, and lowering their expectations. This is not regarded as a critical condition. However, this attitude can cause a lot of people to miss out on so many good chances in life. High self-esteem is located at +10, +10. People who belong under this classification have good belief in their worth and competence. Generally, they are open to new experiences, feel good about themselves, are pleasant to be around, and feel accepted. Because they have high competence levels, they have the ability to succeed in life. This positivity makes them feel secure in their own identity, portray happiness, and manifest with an excellent state of mental health. Authentic self-esteem is a general state of solid worthiness and realistic competence. People who belong under this category are actively concerned with living with intrinsic and positive values. These people are secure enough to admit and perceive limitations and faults. They tend to be consistent and congruent. They also do not require constant validation of their worthiness or competence. These individuals are large, balanced and stable most of the time. Those who belong under the +5 coordinates are referred to as people with medium self-esteem. This in classification, the people are reasonably balanced, secure, and stable. They are also capable of moving forward to attain authentic self-esteem. People under this classification have enough positive experiences where they can draw their strengths from. They also know how to handle their problems with competence and integrity. However, this ability is not yet enough to help them reach high authentic self-esteem. They want to reach that particular state but are wary that this may come at the expense of envy of other people. Worthiness-based self-esteem is at +10, -10. Individuals who fit in this category base their level of self-esteem on how other people see them and how these individuals view themselves. Because they lack competence, they tend to make up for this by denying their shortcomings, minimizing their mistakes, and surrounding themselves with those who truly accept them for who they are. Narcissistic people are those who demonstrate a seemingly exaggerated sense of self-importance. Their general outlook demands others to automatically recognize how awesome they can get. Often, they strongly react when others question their accomplishments and contributions. These people display high levels of confidence outwardly. However, they become vulnerable to relatively mild challenges. They tend to be vigilant in aggressively defending themselves. The approval-centered category falls under the -5 coordinates. Those who are classified under this type largely base their self-esteem on the approval or acceptance of other people. They constantly strive to meet other people's perception of perfection. They may even attempt to live up to expected religious or social ideals even if these are not necessarily aligned with their own sets of principles, beliefs, and values. They work on maintaining their high social status. Also, they seek attention and love through sexuality, subservience, and dependency. This does not mean that they do not possess any skills and competency. This just implies that they are not competent in most areas that are important to them in terms of feeling accepted and being approved. This is considered as the non-clinical part of the sector. People under this category seek the approval of others to help them feel good about themselves. Lack of competence leads to sensitivity to criticism, underachievement in their workplace, rationalization of performance by avoiding confrontation, blaming of others, making excuses, and constantly seeking positive feedback among others. If they truly believe in the sense of importance, they will continuously deny their shortcomings. To other people, this may come off as snobbish, conceited, and stuck up. Companions of these people usually see them as those who are annoying to live and work with. These findings are usually not clinically significant. You can find competence-based self-esteem at -10, +10. These people can measure how they generally feel about themselves. They base their judgment from their successes and achievements. They tend to compensate for lack of worth through the exaggeration of the importance of the successes that they experienced in the past. At the extreme side of low worthiness and high competence scale are the antisocial individuals. These people closely associate their success to their sense of worth or value. Some typical examples are business people who step on other people just to advance their career. Other examples are politicians who make underhanded deals to have their way and competitors who want a success at all costs. People who do this are perceived as those who conflict with the established rules of society. People who consistently, consciously, and deliberately violate other people's rights to get what they want are not interested to be worthy of whatever reward they can get in the end. Achievement-centered people are classified under the -5, +5 coordinates. The more that people place importance on achievement, the more fragile that their level of self-esteem can turn out. In some cultures, society rewards success with a lot of praise and recognition. Therefore, some people may get hungry for achievement because they can have a chance at being acknowledged and eventually feeling good about themselves. People under this category experience fluctuations of self-esteem through successes and failures. People with this type of esteem are usually highly motivated to work hard. They often get highly accomplished in some areas of their expertise. As long as they garner achievements, they will generally appear good to other people. This will also enable them to score high when required to take tests on self-esteem levels. However, this can dramatically change. When their work is criticized and abilities are questioned, they will most likely develop strong defensive reactions. This also applies when they experience failures. Some of the defensive reactions that they may develop over time are the following: giving snide comments, mild put-downs, or even showing outright aggression. Perfectionism may also fall under this classification because anything less than what they perceive as perfect is considered as a failure. In the long run, this can cause a relatively high level of self-criticism. As this state worsens, perfectionism turns more severe. Along with the feeling of lack of worthiness comes additional pressures like being female, being young, having critical parents with high expectations. These are the classifications of self-esteem that you have to keep in mind. If you know someone who falls under the low self-esteem categories, you have to make the necessary steps so that person may obtain emotional support and professional help as soon as possible. Chapter 8, Dimensions of Self-Esteem. According to pioneer researchers to work on the area of self-esteem and other similar psychological concerns, there are at least 4 dimensions of self-esteem. These experts stress out that your level of self-esteem will highly depend on things that you truly value. This is likely influenced by what your culture and your family values for you. In turn, the values that they may encourage to be instilled within you may depend on your gender. Your perception and your personal set of values may also affect this. Self-esteem is divided into 4 main dimensions. When combined, these can tell something about the current level of self-esteem of a person. Significance is also referred to as acceptance. This dimension has a lot to do with the feeling of being cared about and loved. In other words, this is related to the feeling that you are important to another person. You cannot instill this type of feeling in other people. You may try to influence this by using actions and words combined with meeting needs, caring, protection, and nurturing. However, you cannot rest assured that the exact non-verbal messages that you want to send to these people are those that these individuals will receive. People tend to make their choices in terms of the feeling of significance. They may have that feeling that they are accepted and considered as important people if they are cared about. It is important to note that children are especially considered as active participants in the early shaping of their sense of self. Regardless of the hand that fate decides to deal, it is not really the events that transpire that can determine their level of self-esteem but the way that they react to those types of events. Apparently, some children are fortunately born into better circumstances than the others. However, there are still children who have everything that they can ask for but still do not generally feel good about themselves. On the other hand, some of these children may just present the opposite. Children who belong to the latter type have managed to emerge from a cascade of traumatic experiences with their levels of self-esteem still intact. Aside from these, they continue to grow into better people. These are the individuals who appear to use the negative situations to their own advantage. These people learn and grow from their sad experiences, and eventually come out even stronger than ever. Also, people like this appear to take the negative things and transform them so they can have positive effects. Competence is developed by assisting the child in becoming increasingly skilled in a certain set of ideas. You may influence the competence in people by encouraging them to improve their skills in a lot of areas. However, the sense of competency in individuals will highly depend on their tendency to compare themselves with other people who may be more competent than they are at the moment. This is a type of decision that these people make for themselves. This is rarely a type that you can make for them. However, you can somehow influence their decisions if you make comparisons yourself or demand perfection from them. For this particular type of approach, children are typically more affected. If the sense of being competent is important for these individuals, they may experience having low levels of self-esteem even if they are highly competent from the start. This is simply because they will never see themselves as people who are good enough for the task at hand. There is a great discrepancy between where people think they should be and prefer to be and where they are at the moment. For people with a low level of self-esteem because of perceived lack of competence, they may not be able to meet their own sets of standards. These sets of standards may or may not have emerged from their culture or their families. Power and control are concepts that typically develop from the inside. There are various things that can provide you with a sense of power and control. Some of these include the feeling that you have an effect on the events and people in your life, living a satisfactory life, making certain significant things happen around you, and having great control over being the type of person that you are. If you consider your power as an important concern, you may subconsciously depend on this because this can help raise your level of self-esteem. The sense of having power and control is not necessarily about controlling other people. This is not a case of overpowering. Rather, this is power and control in the absolute sense of the word. This is more about personal power. Personal power highly reflects the main definition of the word. Control and power have lots to do with effectiveness. Moral virtue can affect how other people will see you. For some people, the state of being good is deemed important. These people relate their level of self-esteem to the gap between how they currently perceive themselves in the moral sense and how good they need or prefer to be in the future. You have to take note that moral virtue is not considered as a supreme value to all people. Self-esteem is thought to be different in other ways that may be referred to as reasonableness or proportionality. It appears that not all of types of instances related to high or low self-esteem are similar. Some people have high levels of self-esteem because they have worked their way towards attaining real accomplishments. They truly give themselves some credit for meeting new challenges. As a result, they have a fair and good opinion of themselves that are in proportion to the actual challenges that they overcame in life. On the other hand, there are other people with excessively high levels of self-esteem. These are out of proportional to the real actions and accomplishments that they have completed in their life. These individuals think highly of themselves. However, they cannot point out any substance-laden choices, actions, and accomplishments that they have made that can somehow justify their high opinion of themselves to other fair-minded observers. Their high levels of self-esteem are more likely based from a sense of entitlement rather than on any type of accomplishment. This entitled type of self-esteem is regarded as psychologically unhealthy compared to the proportional type. This is mostly because of the self-centered and selfish behavior that come with the inappropriate sense of entitlement. This type of high self-esteem is described as the overinflated type. This state is closely linked to narcissism. The self-esteem of some people may also be too low or underinflated. In most cases, people who end up having a low level of self-esteem have actually experienced the challenges and adversity. They have also treated other people well. All in all, they have a lot of base to feel good about themselves. However, they may not readily recognize these actions and accomplishments for a variety of reasons. These reasons may include, but may not be limited to the following: tendency towards obsessive perfectionism, anxiety, and depression. They may also have a habit in taking part in cognitive distortions. Also, they may have been exploited or abused in the past. They constantly perceive themselves as continuously failing to meet the unreasonable and internalize high standard of goodness. Thus, they display a low level of self-esteem coupled with a sense of emotional distress if they were not able to meet this established internal standard. However, other people may view them as some who is worthy based on their actions and accomplishments. They may have some difficulty comprehending why they feel so bad about themselves in the first place. Chapter 9: Problems related to self-esteem. There are various factors that can help you determine your current level of self-esteem. If you think you are not good enough for a promotion at work, or you simply hate the way that you dress, you may be suffering from an episode of low self-esteem. Studies have shown that poor self-image and low self-esteem are related to a variety of problems that may directly or indirectly affect any aspect of your life, from the way you handle your relationships to your career and the way that you look. In this book section, you will learn more about some of the most common problems that you can observe from people with low self-esteem. Along with these problems are some possible actions that you can do to help sort these problems out. Self-hate is typically characterized by certain feelings of frustration and anger about who you are as a person. While there may be times that you simply hate who you are and what you have done, loathing your actions and thoughts may be considered as a common signs of low self-esteem. Self-hate may also be described as a lack of ability to forgive yourself even if you have just committed a minor mistake. To help address this concern, you may do the following: challenge the negative self-beliefs that you have for yourself. It is more likely that your inner sense of who you are is just outdated and has already been passed by other people to you. These negative beliefs may have come from your colleagues, ex-partners, or even your parents. You should not be afraid to do new things to change these beliefs because it is your life after all. Truly forgive yourself for your own mistakes. No one is absolutely good or bad. Doing something in the past that you regret does not make you one of the hateful people in the same way as doing something good will not make you a saint at all. You also have to change the way that you talk to yourself. If you have a constant internal critic, this will typically make your self-hate even worse. Therefore, you need to do something to silence that negative voice in your head. You may do this by internally reciting a positive mantra or response for every negative thing that you may think about. You do not have any reason to be your worst critic. The drive to always be perfect can be one of the most destructive problems related to low levels of self-esteem. A perfectionist is a person who constantly lives in a sense of failure. They perceive that they are never quite good enough no matter how impressive their achievements are. To help perfectionists turn this problem around, they are highly encouraged to perform the following exercises. Stop sweating out the small stuff. People who suffer from perfectionism tend to criticize relatively insignificant problems. Because of this, they overlook the bigger picture. This makes them fail to take pride in this. Recognize the large difference between being a failure and failing at a specific action. Anyone should not confuse these very different concepts. Set realistic expectations that one can possibly accomplish within a reasonable period of time. Consciously, think about how manageable and reasonable the goals are before working for them. Remember that generally, life is imperfect. A poor body image is usually related to a low self-esteem. The opposite concept may also apply for this idea. This implies that this particular problem can affect everything, from how you project yourself in social events and how you particularly behave in your relationships with other people. If you want to get rid of this problem for good, you need to do these things. Take good care of your appearance. Individuals who have a negative body image usually stop making an effort to look good because they feel that it is pointless in the first place. For your looks, you have to perform at least 3 positive things for your appearance. Look after your health. Daily exercise coupled with a healthy diet program will not only make you feel stronger and more fit than ever but will also enable the release of endorphins. These hormones will help uplift your mood so you can feel better about yourself. You need to avoid comparing yourself to other people because this will only lead to more insecurity. You have to accept that all people are unique. In this regard, you should remember where most of your strength lie. A feeling of deep-rooted worthlessness can emerge from certain feelings that you may not be as valuable as other people. All people may have some doubts in their ability to deliver in certain aspects of their lives. If you can somehow relate to this phenomenon, it is important for you to know that feeling worthy of something is not something that other people can readily give you but something that you have to build yourself. You may do the following to help you do something about your current problem. Raise self-awareness on what you teach other people on how to treat you. Practice projecting yourself as a person with opinions that are just as valid as the opinions of other people. If you do this correctly, you will somehow notice your sense of self-worth beginning to improve. While it may be all right to think highly of other people, this does not mean that they are a lot better than you are. It is acceptable to admire other traits of people. However, you should not do this at your quality's expense. Accept that all people come with different unique talents. You should take pride in these talents to help you believe that you are a worthy person. Being overly sensitive is considered as one of the most painful aspects of low levels of self-esteem. Whether you feel literally demolished or angered by a comment or any criticism that has been directed to you, it is important to learn how to desensitize yourself from these things. These are some things that you may do for desensitization. Make sure that you will move on from the incident no matter what. Replaying the event and the comments and criticisms over and over again will just upset you to no end. This will only make the unpleasant memory stick with you more. In other words, this will never help you in any way. If the comment or criticism has some truth attached to it, You have to learn something from what has been directed at you. This is a lot better than beating up yourself about this. Constructive criticism typically helps you improve further. This is provided that you will carefully take note of the comments and make some changes for the better. If you think that the criticism is not fair, you have to assert that you do not agree with it. If possible, you may cite some aspects that can support why you think the criticism is not fair. You have to make sure that you will truly listen to what other people will tell you. This way, you can readily evaluate if a comment is authentic or not. This will somehow give you an idea on how you should feel about this. Combined with anxiety and fear is a direct result of low self-esteem. Fear and the belief that you are indeed powerless to effect a change in any aspect of your life stem out as a manifestation of lack of faith in yourself. To help you disprove your unfounded doubts in yourself, you have to do these: build up your self-confidence by squarely facing your inner fears. You may draw up a fear pyramid. Place your greatest fears at the top of the diagram and the minor ones at the base of the drawing. The idea is to work the way towards the top part of the pyramid. To do this, you have to deal with each of your fears in real life. In the process, this can help you boost your belief in your own abilities because you have proof that you can do it. Distinguish the difference between unfounded fears and genuine ones. You can do this by challenging your anxieties using concrete facts. For example, you may feel doubtful about asking for a promotion at work because you think that you will never get it anyway. You may challenge this negative thought by looking at concrete evidence that can help you weigh out if you are actually deserving of the promotion or not. In case you are not really deserving after checking out the concrete facts, you may then work your way to be deserving of what you want to obtain in the first place. In this case, you have to do something to improve yourself so you can be deserving of the promotion. Anger is considered as a relatively normal emotion that can get really distorted if you have low self-esteem. If you do not think highly of yourself, you will begin believing that your own feelings and thoughts are not important to other people. Repressed anger and hurt will inevitably build up over time. Therefore, a combination of seemingly small negative feelings and thoughts can eventually trigger outbursts of fury if you do not do something about it. These are just some of the things that you may do to turn this problem around. You should not overdo things. People endowed with a low level of self-esteem will often overcommit to something. They will then feel bitter in the struggle to cope up with the problem. You should attempt to take on tasks that you actually want to do so you can truly enjoy them. Learn how to stay calm. One of the things that you have to do to maintain this emotional state is to prevent your feelings from simply simmering away until you finally explode. Rather, you should openly express how you are actually feeling at the moment. If this does not seem to work, you should step away from the situation first. After this, you have to take in slow and long breaths to decrease the heart rate. This will also help bring your body to a relaxed condition. One of the largest problems with people who have low self-esteem is the feeling that you need to please other people all the time. Some people have this frame of thought because they think that this will help other people respect, love, and like them. As a result, many of the people who are always in their toes to please other people end up feeling used and aggrieved in the long run. If you are a people pleaser, you may do these things to help you resolve your problem. Set some limits on other people. Feeling used and resentful results from accepting things from family and friends that you personally think and feel are unacceptable. Start placing some limits on what you are willing and not willing to do. Eventually, your resentment will begin to ease out. At times, you have to think about your needs and be selfish for a change. People who have healthy self-esteem very much know when it is important to place themselves first. learned how to say no. Your sense of worth should not depend on the approval of other people. In the first place, people should love and like you for who you really are and not for what you are doing for them. These are just some of the problems that may stem out from low levels of self-esteem. As soon as you recognize some of the signs and symptoms of these problems, you should do something to resolve this as soon as possible. Chapter 10, Identity and Self-Esteem. There are various factors that can definitely affect the level of self-esteem of a person. Given this fact, shaping of your self-esteem can be different for different changes in your life. In the long run, all the aspects and experiences that you have in the past can help form your identity. Therefore, it is safe to say that self-esteem is related to your identity. In this book section, you will learn more about some issues in life that are directly related to self-esteem. While some of the concerns of teenagers are relatively normal, there may be some issues that may point out a deeper problem. According to experts, around 11% of young people in their teenage years have major psychological illnesses. That can sum up to almost 4 million teens. Around the same percentage of adolescents also suffer less serious but still notable mental health problems. In both of the cases, these problems go mostly undiagnosed. Interestingly, most of these psychiatric disorders emerge because of a low level of self-esteem. An educational and charitable arm of the Association of American Psychiatry known as the American Psychiatric Foundation recently launched a program especially designed for high school students. This program aims to help counselors and educators determine the red flags of mental illness. Proper identification and early detection of these problems can help point the teens towards the help that they need. Time is of the essence, according to the experts of the foundation. If there is a larger gap between the time of detection and actual treatment of these problems, there is a great chance that the results will be poorer for the involved patients. At this moment, there is a significant delay between the detection and the onset of the mental illnesses. The following are some of the red flags that you have to look out for in teenagers. This will help you detect if the teen is at risk of suffering from any form of mental illnesses that may have emerged from low self-esteem. Strange feelings and thoughts that may be coupled with unusual behaviors, consistent non-aggressive or aggressive violation of other people's rights, vandalism, thefts, truancy, or opposition to figures of authority, threats to run away from home, frequent outbursts of aggression or anger, self-destructive behavior or self-injury, threats to harm other people or self-persistent nightmares, intense fear of turning obese with no real connection to real body weight, restriction from eating or purging certain food items, abuse of substances such as drugs and alcohol, depression manifested by a sustained negative attitude and mood that is usually accompanied by thoughts of death, difficulty sleeping, or poor appetite, role play that is sexual in nature, numerous physical complaints that may or may not have any basis, inability to cope up with daily activities and problems, significant change in eating habits, sleeping habits, and school performance as early as a few months to a child's first year in life. They already have some idea on how they have to act based on gender. These days, it is practically considered as a cultural habit to hand your daughter with some dolls and to provide your son with a toy car to play with. This will eventually perpetuate some of the gender stereotypes that the society may perceive as typical for both boys and girls. Everything turns out differently if your son would want to play dolls while your daughter decides that she enjoys having some action figures. A study from a psychology research journal shows that around 30% of the toys catered for girls are actually marketed to a girl's appearance. Some of these toys include princess dresses and plastic makeup kits. On the other hand, 46% of the toys created for boys highly appeal to the activities and traits of a boy. Some of these toys include a football and a chemistry set. These gender-based toys essentially teach the children to define a boy based on his actions and to describe a girl based on her appearance. The same type of study portrays that children start to understand the concept of gender roles early in life. They begin learning this as early as 30 months old. Children among the 3 to 5-year-old age brackets experience a height and awareness of themselves as well as the world surrounding them. Even the toddlers may harbor certain opinions what girls and boys should do. Because of this, they may eventually reject their formerly beloved toys because of this. Experts state that whenever you support or send out messages of idealized gender to your children, you do not give them the chance to be themselves. Examples of this are these expectations. Boys are expected to be driven, unemotional, and tough, while the girls are expected to be dependent, passive, and demure. If you control what type of people they should be, you are essentially suppressing their chance to further improve their levels of self-esteem. Instead of forcing them to play with gender-biased toys, you should do something to get rid of the stereotypes and gender roles in your household. There are many ways that you can do this. Confronting the gender stereotypes head-on will help dispel the misconceptions on these toys. If you are reading a story to your children, you have to make sure that you will emphasize that the princess in the story is capable of taking care of herself and is not just looking for a man who will eventually take care of her. For all the children, you may browse the pages of a magazine or watch television together while pointing out that the usual masculine or feminine ideas that you may notice. Talking with teachers and babysitters can help prevent undoing your hard work in battling the stereotypes at home. You should tell other individuals who take care of your children that you do not limit the activities or toys as exclusively girlish or boyish. You should also ask them to respect your wishes. As much as possible, you should also diffuse bullying. While you cannot readily protect your children from any type of negative insights because of the way that he plays, you may place a positive spin in experimenting with various gender roles. For instance, if your son comes home crying after being branded as a girl because he was playing with dolls in school, you have to remind him that all types of toys should be played for fun by everyone. You may then call up and talk to the parents of the bully and the school staff. You have to inform them that you advocate all kinds of play in your household. Calling up other children for a play date with your son or daughter will not only keep your child occupied for a few hours, but it can also help enhance the creativity for your children. To promote creative play, you have to leave out a container of gender-neutral toys and prepare some group games. This will help ensure that the children will harmoniously play with each other. If all the children takes part in the same kind of activity, your child will realize that there is no right or wrong method to play games regardless of the gender. Offering a mixed bag of toys can help the children decide on their preference on their own. Children are blank canvases. Therefore, there is no wrong or right when it comes to their playtime. You should encourage your children to test out new methods to play. Playing balls or using the toy kitchen can help do this. If you express your gender-biased decisions on what your children should play, you will eventually damage their exploration. In the process, this can discourage them from trying out new things in the future apart from play preferences. As much as possible, you have to go for toys that will help stimulate their creativity. Instead of going for action figures, try investing in sturdy toys that may be used in a lot of ways. The former may only be played in one way. Therefore, this cannot help enhance the creative and nurturing qualities of your children. Some of the toys that you may purchase for your children are the following: animal sets, building blocks, colorful scarves, and art supplies. If they use them for glee or boyish roles in play, you simply have to accept the stereotypical play situations as their natural personality preferences. In the long run, this can help them have higher self-esteem because they have the independence and the confidence to make decisions for themselves. These are just some common issues related to self-esteem that you have to learn. As much as possible, you have to address the issues early on. If you do, it will be easier for you to undo the potential emotional and psychological damage that negative experiences brought them. Chapter 11, Tips to Improve Self-Esteem. Self-esteem is the way that you value yourself. This is how you perceive your own worth in relation to society and the rest of the world. This may also refer to how worthy you think you are to other people. This can affect almost all aspects of your life directly and indirectly. Therefore, it is essential to determine how to deal with the situation if you think you are suffering from a low level of self-esteem. Setting an intention before you even leave your bed can help start off your entire day. In setting your intention, you have to decide for yourself what type of day you want to have in the first place. Coming up with a conscious and deliberate decision on how you want your time to work for you is a minor but important initial step in building up not just self-esteem but self-confidence as well. Writing your plans down can help make your state of mind seem more concrete to you. Changing your mental diet will help in significantly transforming how you view yourself. As much as possible, refer to uplifting books. If you are not much into books, you may try out self-esteem workshops or listening to music that you truly love. Generally, you have to focus on what you prefer to create and what makes you really happy. As much as possible, veer away from negativity. If you can, stay away from complainers and whiners. In relation to the previous tip, you need to upgrade your physical diet. A healthy body and a healthy mind will definitely work harmoniously to further improve your current state of health. Compared to organic raw vegetables and fruits, processed food items have very minimal nutritional value in them. Instead of going for energy drinks and caffeinated beverages, you have to go for smoothies, fresh juices, and water. For a boost of nutrients, adding nutrient-dense superfoods to the mix will help improve most physiological functions in your body further. When you take in healthy food items, it follows that you will have more energy and will naturally feel better in the long run. Your current sense of self will follow. You have to stop comparing yourself to other people. You are not meant to be like anyone else in the same way that your values, gifts, and perspectives are exclusively yours. You should consider yourself as a unique person who is especially designed for a specific purpose in life. Revel in the beauty of this idea. If you want to compare yourself to another, it should be with the former version of yourself. Evaluate how far you have come in life and be kind in doing so. Conclusion: thank you again for downloading this book. I hope this book was able to help you to understand how you can help yourself in enhancing your self-esteem, confidence, and inner strength. The next step is to take some time to reflect and determine how you can apply the techniques and strategies you have just learned in your own life. Finally, if you enjoyed this book, please take the time to share your thoughts and post a review on Amazon. We do our best to reach out to readers and provide the best value we can. Your positive review will help us achieve that. It would be greatly appreciated. Thank you and good luck. Click here to leave a review on Amazon.com if you are interested in human behavioral writing. Then please subscribe to receive any free publishings, updated and revised books you have purchased, new Amazon releases by this author or authors with similar topics. Subscribe today. Click me if you would like to subscribe today. Thanks again for downloading this book and follow through to my book preview on the next page. preview of single-quote ADHD symptom and strategies, the ultimate guide for understanding and handling attention deficit disorder in adults and children. Chapter 1, Understanding ADHD. ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, is one of the childhood disorders becoming more and more common in recent years. This is a neurobehavioral disorder, which starts to develop during childhood and may persist into adulthood. The defining characteristic of ADHD is difficulty keeping focus and attention, hyperactivity and difficulty in controlling the different behaviors. Factors that cause ADHD. Years of studying ADHD has not yet yielded a definite cause. There are factors, though, that are linked to its development. Genes. One of the factors found to play a major role in ADHD is genes. Studies showed that ADHD has a large tendency to run in families. Children that have ADHD were found to carry a certain gene that causes brain tissues to be thinner than normal. The thin tissues are more often found in the areas of the brain associated with attention. As the children who have this gene grew up, the brain tissue matured with the normal thickness, and the symptoms of ADHD consequently improved. Other factors aside from genes that play a major role in ADHD development, other factors have some role. Although these factors do not automatically and significantly cause ADHD when present alone. Environmental factors. Exposure to certain toxins in the environment has been found potentially linked to the development of ADHD. Chemicals include cigarette smoke and alcohol exposure while in utero has been found to possibly cause ADHD in the baby later in life. Preschoolers exposed to high levels of lead in preschools may also increase the risk for ADHD. Brain injuries. Trauma to the brain may cause changes in the structure and function of the brain tissues, which may lead to symptoms of ADHD. However, among children diagnosed with ADHD, a very small percentage has history of traumatic brain injury. Sugar. A popular idea about ADHD is the link of early exposure to refined sugars to the development of ADHD. The idea is that children who ate foods that contain refined sugars are at higher risk for ADHD. The symptoms of those who already have ADHD worsen with it. Studies done related to this idea discount the claim. One study even found that mothers who thought their children were given aspartame, a sugar substitute more commonly known as NutraSweet, were more critical of their children's behavior and rated them as more hyperactive. Further studies need to confirm if there is really a significant effect of refined sugars to ADHD. Food additives. Unlike the case of refined sugars, studies about the link between food additives and ADHD show possible relationship. Artificial colors and preservatives can increase activity, which can trigger the hyperactive state of ADHD symptoms. The signs and symptoms of ADHD. The key behaviors that define ADHD are hyperactivity, inattention and impulsivity. These are all normal behaviors in children. However, in those suffering from ADHD, these occur more often and more pronounced than what is considered as normal behavior. In order to diagnose a child, he must be exhibiting the symptoms for more than 6 months, more often and more severe than other children of the same age. Inattention symptoms include any of the following behaviors. The child is easily distracted when performing certain tasks, switching from one task to another, without completing any. The child misses details and forgets things more often than what is normally observed in other children of the same age. The child has difficulty focusing on a single task or activity. The child easily becomes bored after a few minutes into an activity, unless it is something that the child enjoys. The child has difficulty in focusing his attention on things like learning something new, and in organizing and completing tasks. The child has frequent trouble in completing or submitting homework on time. He also often loses things needed for the completion of certain tasks and activities like pencils, erasers and toys. The child does not seem to listen when being spoken to. The child is often observed daydreaming, moving slowly when going about the activity, and becomes easily confused. The child has difficulty understanding information quickly and accurately as other children do. The child can be observed struggling when following instructions. Book 2, Mind Control Mastery, by Jeffrey Powell. Successful Guide to Human Psychology and Manipulation, Persuasion and Deception. Copyright 2014 Jeffrey Powell, all rights reserved. In no way is it legal to reproduce, duplicate, or transmit any part of this document in either electronic means or in printed format. Recording of this publication is strictly prohibited, and any storage of this document is not allowed unless with written permission from the publisher. All rights reserved. Introduction. Are you wondering on ways in which you can effectively manipulate, persuade and deceive another person to contribute to your cause, vote for your political candidate, buy your goods or avail of your services? If the answer is yes, this book is definitely for you. The truth is, everything that you have right now, and everything that you will ever have, will come from your interactions with other people. Therefore, consciously or unconsciously, you are consistently trying to persuade, manipulate and deceive other people through your words and actions. I want to thank you and congratulate you for downloading the book, Mind Control Mastery, Successful Guide to Human Psychology and Manipulation, Persuasion and Deception. This book contains the most comprehensive techniques of human psychology, manipulation, persuasion and deception, in order to help you in your personal goals. The goal of this book is to provide the reader with techniques, strategies and exercises that they can readily perform. As such, the author of this book has made it possible to create a successful mind control mastery guide that provides a good working knowledge of the fundamental concepts that is highly practical, instead of being passive and abstract. Moreover, effort has been done to make this reference book as intuitive and easy to learn as possible. This book will be perfect for anyone who wants to improve his or her interactions with another person in a way that will advance his or her goals. In the first chapter, you will learn the fundamental concepts of human psychology and manipulation, persuasion and deception. In the second chapter, specific tactics for manipulation are outlined. In the third chapter, specific tactics for persuasion are discussed. In the final chapter, specific tactics for deception are outlined. At the end of the day, your skills on manipulation, persuasion and deception will be greatly improved. This will help you get more of what you desire and when you want it. Thanks again for downloading this book. I hope you enjoy it. Chapter 1, The Fundamentals of Human Psychology and Manipulation, Persuasion and Deception. In this chapter you will learn human psychology and manipulation, persuasion and deception, ethical considerations, the power of suggestion changes perception, using the right words in a question statement by an authority, human psychology and manipulation, persuasion and deception. There are a lot of theories out there discussing the functions and tendencies of the human brain. There are also a lot of literature that discuss how people form their opinions, belief systems and behavior. Conversely, there will be a lot of theories that will discuss how people generally behave in certain situations, contexts and environments. With all these theories and literature of the human psychology, one thing is certain: in order to persuade, manipulate or deceive a person, you have to align your mind with their situation, context or environment. In other words, the first step in persuading, manipulating or deceiving someone is to fully understand their minds. How do you fully understand the mind of the other person? How do you use this understanding of the other person's mind in order to persuade, deceive or manipulate him into your thinking? The fundamental answer to this question is, find what drives and motivates the other person to do an action. As an illustrative case, does the other person do it for the money? Does he do it for glory? Does he do it for power? Does he do it for fame? Understand his psychology and his state of mind. Once you are armed with the other person's drive and motivations, it is now time to strategically position your conversations and requests in such a way that will be beneficial to him and his motivations. In this way, he will quickly accept your request with little to no resistance. Do you know why? This is because he will see you as very much like him because of the way you controlled the conversation and asked your request. As such, he will feel the innate compulsion to comply with your request. This is the fundamental tenet of persuasion, deception and manipulation. The major theme of this work is to persuade, manipulate and deceive the other person without the other person knowing or noticing it. In other words, your goal is to keep your efforts and intentions hidden and concealed from your target. Therefore, the strategies and techniques that you will learn in chapters 2, 3 and 4 are specifically designed to help you bypass the human mind's critical factor, persuasion, manipulation and deception, without the process being known to the receiver. As such, your goal is to accomplish your intentions without significant resistance or reaction by your target person or group of persons. The logic falls, but the emotions win. If you ever studied the rules of logic, you would see that manipulating, deceiving, or persuading a person may put you in this rather absurd situation, which is committing a fallacy. Fallacies, in themselves, are absurdities, meaning that your argument cannot possibly be held always true because it defies specific rules. If you want your argument to be always valid and you want to influence the mind of others through the most logical means, then you may find that psychology is actually riddled with a lot of fallacies. There are the argumentum ad baculum, argumentum as ad acitum, argumentum ad verecundium, and a lot of other Latin terms for false appeals. People commit these fallacies because they are appealing to emotions, authority, or turn of events that they, of course, cannot possibly predict. However, this is the good part about the real world. Not all people are convinced that everything that falls under good logic is actually sound argument. A sound argument means that there are truths in this world that actually defy the laws of logic. However, their defiance of the law, as people can see it, makes the world a lot more real. There are times that people try to predict the weather, which of course is largely unpredictable. There are predictions that nail it, and there are those that would turn out otherwise. While there are some books that would make you think that the right path to influencing people is to play with their heads according to the laws of logic, this book would make you learn how to greatly influence others by putting yourself in their shoes. This is all about empathizing with others, and then putting a believable and sound argument in their head that would work well for your benefit. That is because in the real world people are more likely to react according to what they feel and not according to what the truth in their heads say. You have probably observed how many people have eaten ice cream just because. They would not argue that a hormone told them to do it, and it is because of the firing of neurons in their head. They eat ice cream because they believe that they are just happy to do it. Now, you will influence people to act according to your plan just how they like their ice cream. They will be just happy to do what you ask them to do. Ethical considerations. There are a lot of reasons why a certain person would like to manipulate, deceive and persuade another person. Now, the question is it ethical to manipulate, deceive and persuade another person into your thinking? The answer really depends on you. No one can determine whether what you are doing is ethical or not but you. However, there are a lot of instances in society where you need to perform some techniques in manipulation, deception and persuasion in order to advance your position. As an illustrative example in the international political arena, let us suppose you are the President of the United States and Russia is trying to engage you in a nuclear arms race. Of course, you do not want to engage in another world war. Therefore, your target person is the Russian leader, and your intention or position is to stop any world conflict and maintain peace. In this case, it would be very useful to utilize techniques on persuasion, deception and manipulation in order to advance your position of world peace and harmony. If you are in the field of business, your target persons, of course, are your clients and customers. In addition, your intention is to make them buy your products or avail your services. If you are an environmental lawyer, your target persons are policymakers, lobbyists and the public. In addition, your intention is to persuade them to join your cause of protecting the environment. When you look at the topic of mind control closely, it is practically a game of persuasion, which is arguably played every day. It would be, of course, up to you to think of the purpose why you would want to learn these tricks. As Machiavelli would say, everything becomes means to a specific end. The art of mind manipulation, however, does not mean that you are denying your targets of free will. Instead, you are giving them something that they are most likely looking for, a sense of compelling choice, which serves as guidance for their behavior. At the end of the day, it is the extent of your actions and your personal belief system that will determine whether the tactics and strategies that you use are ethical or not. The power of suggestion changes perception. Remember that a major goal of this book is to create a specific change in the thinking of your target person without that person being aware of the changes in his or her thinking. If you are a businessman, your target persons are your customers and your position or intention is to make them buy your products or avail your services. In this regard, one of the most effective ways in making a change in the way of thinking of your customers, target persons, is to change the way you speak. In other words, you have to make use of the right words that your customers desire. If you are watching commercial advertisements in the television and also in YouTube right now, you will realize short commercial videos is enticing because they address the specific problems of their target persons using the words or lingo of the latter. Therefore, there is an emotional feeling that the product or service fully understands your context, situation or environment. Now, when you think about the way commercials appear on TV, they are all offering two types of sensations, pleasure and pain. Essentially, they are playing on the two sensations that changed the course of humanity forever. Philosophers, religious orders, and tyrants all played with the concept of sensations with a similar belief that all people would want to do anything in order for them to obtain pleasure or to avoid pain. Thousands of years later, people still behave in the same fashion. That is why the art of manipulation and mind control is still in business. With that in mind, how do you think people prefer their brand of coffee in the morning? It is still the play of pleasure versus pain. Some will believe that they prefer double shots of espresso in order for them to experience the pleasurable sensation of becoming awake much quicker, because they are annoyed with slowness. They want to reach the bitter taste of coffee as soon as they take a sip. However, they are in contrast with the lap people. They prefer milk over coffee, and they want to feel the caffeine like it is, in the form of slow waves in their bloodstream. However, try saying to an espresso lover that he can absorb more caffeine in a tall glass of latte than drinking 3 tall glasses of cappuccino. More often than not, that espresso lover would try switching to latte the next morning because he is more likely to get what he wants quickly that way. At the end of this argument, people are not mostly concerned about the way they are getting what they want. They just want a method that would lead them closer to their goals. They would like to think that their preferred methods are all shortcuts. With that in mind, it is rather easy for people to change their belief systems if the change is going to guarantee success. That is why there are just too many commercially available products of the same variant out there. Just imagine the number of toothpaste brands. However, spread the word that one brand would probably make a person's teeth fall off when he's in his 80s. It is almost guaranteed that people that are die-hard fans of that brand would switch, or do a really strict scrutiny. For this reason, when you are trying to learn to influence the minds of people around you, always try to understand how they truly feel about a product. One way or another, they buy a product because they believe that they want it. But once someone offers the idea that they should not want it anymore because it will cause them harm, they would reject that product. However, perhaps 7 out of 10 times, they would look for a similar product then quit using it daily. If you can offer cigarettes that would not give cancer and mouth problems yet offer the same satisfying drag as other brands, then you are almost guaranteed to be rich. Why is that the case? It is because humans all desire what they are used to having. Now change that perspective and offer a benefit, or offer something that would improve their lives the easy way. Offer something that if they refuse to take, they will put their lives at risk. The art of mind control is similar. The subconscious would always tell targets that they are moving towards pleasure and avoidance of pain. Using the right words in a question, the truth is, you can also use the right words in forming a question that will manipulate, deceive and persuade your target person. For example, there was a psychological and behavioral experiment conducted by one of the leading scientists in the field of memory, Elizabeth Loftus, in the 1970s. In this experiment, she made people in a room view images of an accident between an automobile and a pedestrian. In the said images, the automobile, a red Datsun car, was shown together with a yellow yield sign, traffic light, in the scene of the accident. After some time, she asks the group of people, "Did you see the stop sign, red traffic light, together with the red Datsun car, the automobile involved in the accident?" The funny thing is, most of the people answered yes. Of course the correct answer must be in the negative because the sign was the yellow yield sign. The implication of this experiment is that if you use the right words in forming your question in such a way as to verbalize the information that you want to be altered, the memory of the other person is altered in your favor. The trick is that people, more often than not, refer to association. The good thing is that the human language is so diverse that a word in a sentence, even though it is a synonym, can actually change the entire context that the person is reacting upon. When you think about it, a sentence can mean the same thing but still generate different responses. For example, you can ask a person about the importance of his role as a citizen during election time, with the hopes that you can get him to vote. You may ask two different, yet very similar questions. Do you know how important it is that you vote? Or, do you know your importance as a voter? Note that you merely want that person to think about his duty as a citizen, which is to elect officials. However, a person who is asked the second question is more likely to be affected by the topic at hand. That is because you made sure that he is going to answer a question that is more appealing for him. You made him a character in that story that you were trying to paint. The right words in a question also involve senses that are more appealing to a person. You know that there are people who are more likely to decide according to what they see, and there are others who are more affected by the sound of the product. If you are trying to sell a guitar, a visual person would probably buy according to what he already saw on the stand, and there is no point in making him test it out for the sound. He is already sold the moment he saw it. An oral person, on the other hand, is more likely to buy from you if you ask him if he wants that guitar on the shelf that gives a rich, full, and bright sound. Note that you are offering the same product, but you are asking about the senses that appeals to them more. Statement by an authority. Another fundamental principle in order to manipulate, deceive and persuade a target person is the statement by an authority strategy. This means that a mere suggestion or statement by an authority figure can often modify and alter a person's visual memory in such a manner as to create a different memory that is favorable to the authority figure. The implication of this principle is that depending on the person who is doing the telling, is he an authority figure or is he another common person? People will think different things about his suggestion or statement. Always remember that a person's authority figure differs from person to person. As an illustrative example, some people will consider a university professor as an authority figure while some people will consider a person who learned from hard knocks as an authority figure. In other words, you have to put yourself in a situation where you will know the considered authority figure of your target person. Now, suppose that you want to go to Las Vegas together with your friend. You have the knowledge that this friend considers Professor Smith from economics class as his authority figure. In this case you can say to your friend that, "I know how much you like Professor Smith from the university. Well, he said these things about going to Las Vegas." See the magic that will happen. You might think that there are people who do not believe in authority. Well, you're right, so this cannot be a universal strategy to influence people. However, if you look at the history of this civilization, people have always rooted for any form of organization. People had always been on the lookout for someone who will provide them the information that they need to improve their lives, or someone they will look up to as an inspiration. While people may think that they can deal away with the government, they will still look for a leader. To be able to influence a person, you must have either the qualities of a leader, or have your words come from someone influential. That way, you wouldn't be doubted by those listening to the words you say. Chapter 2, Assuming the Role of the Controller. When you look at master mentalists that have the ability to control another person's will, or heavily influence decisions, you may think that they have superpowers. However, that power has also been the trick used by the greatest salesmen, politicians, lawyers, private investigators, and even con men. The art of bending another person's mind has been used for centuries, and that has ushered many civilizations to either flourish or become devastated. So, what does it take to be able to be great at persuading, manipulating, or deceiving people? It does not take much. All you need to do is to assume the best asset to these mentalists, and that is self-esteem. For starters, that is what you would need to have. Why be confident? Being a good mentalist requires a tremendous success rate, because it would be very difficult to get out of the situation in case you fail. Imagine the amount of explaining that you would have to do whenever you fail to deceive someone. At the same time, people who are confident are the ones who can easily think of several strategies at once on how they can be successful. They are also the ones who have the passion to succeed and change their strategies if needed. Now, since influencing the minds of others requires a lot of psychological work, it would definitely be wise to become a person who can handle the pressure. The thing about being confident is that you can be unfazed in front of your targets. You can calmly look at them in the eye with only one thing in your mind, your success. Since your mind is clear and you are able to make plans spontaneously based on another person's actions, you are able to make sure that you can give the right responses. That is why poker players and street magicians have the ability to tell people what they need to do by ensuring that their audience is bound to see something entertaining. But if they manage to break eye contact, break a sweat, or unknowingly give away their trick, all those people who are watching them are going to predict what they are going to do. Hence, the trick that they are preparing is bound to fail. The art of mind control works similarly to that. The only difference is that you are trying to get so much more from another person. You are not merely trying to get their chips or their applause, you are trying to win their trust. Now, imagine what would happen if you are trying to sell an idea and you cannot even manage to look the other person in the eye. Imagine what would happen if you are overly conscious about how you dress, or you obviously wonder what other people are thinking about you. Then you would not be able to secure what you want from other people in the first place. Become credible. Credibility makes a good part of the game. You are more likely to influence people who are not going to put up defenses around you because it is apparent that you are trying to sell them something or use them according to your will. Now, while that may be your objective in order to achieve a much bigger goal, no person in this planet would be willing to do you a favor without their own interests in mind. At this point, you have to keep in mind that you are not merely trying to plant an idea in your target's mind, but also see to it that they see the benefit of this particular action. You need to provide them the idea that they can find comfort in your company, and that you are willing to show them the tricks that you have up your sleeves. Credibility is not merely about becoming believable when it comes to the role that you are trying to assume. It is about the impression that you are someone important, a force to be reckoned with. You have to become a person that people would want to listen to. Give orders. Darren Brown, a world-famous mentalist, once showed his trick on how he can possibly predict what another person is going to choose to do. He was even able to predict what top advertising partners are going to come up with in a surprise task. However, he is also known for being a master of misdirection and influencing the subliminal mind. For that, he is known to provide the best orders when it comes to manipulating the mind. A good mind controller knows how to deeply influence a person by manipulating the subliminal mind. That works by making use of everything that is around the target to plant an idea. For that reason, you are able to make sure that your environment is the best tool that you can use in order for you to influence others. The reason for that is that most people move according to what the environment dictates. That is perhaps one of the best-kept secrets of mentalists. They instill their credibility on you by making sure that you are aware that they can carefully read your body language. However, they are merely reading what you would most possibly do according to the environment around you. For example, you are most likely to think of a Three of Diamonds card when you see something that is similar to that around you. You may see that in the magician's shirt, or randomly placed inside the room that you are in. For that reason, the best magicians and salesmen do this trick. They deliberately give orders to their target that would definitely imprint an idea in their mind. They manage to ask their target to use all the information that they can also observe in the environment, in order to provide their target the idea that everything is a spontaneous act. By providing the right type of orders, they manage to misdirect the target. Then what appears to their target is a pure trick. However, you may not have to go through the entire staging, unless you are gunning for deception. You can always influence people without having to hide it. Chapter 3: The 4 Golden Tactics for Manipulation. In this chapter you will learn, manipulation tactic number 1, rapidly build rapport with your target. Manipulation tactic number 2, use content to build rapport with your target. Manipulation tactic number 3, use processes to build rapport with your target. Manipulation tactic number 4, induce reciprocity. Manipulation tactic number 1, rapidly build rapport with your target. According to the dictionary, rapport is a relationship of emotional affinity or mutual trust. To put it simply, Rapport with the other person simply means that your feelings and emotions are strategically in sync or in harmony with them. As a rule, a person will feel a good amount of rapport with another person if the former likes the latter. Therefore, building rapport with your target person will be one of the most important tools that you can use in order to manipulate them. Now, what is the valuable test in order to determine if you have a good amount of rapport with another person? The test is this: does this person respond to my actions, thoughts and words in a manner that is positive? If the answer is yes, you have successfully built rapport without you knowing it. If the answer is no, you have to use some techniques and strategies to build a good amount of rapport with your target person. The following strategies are proved to facilitate building of rapport with another person: match and mirror the other person's body position, have a conversation where you will talk about subjects of common interest. Why is mirroring interests and actions very important when trying to manipulate a target? That is because people are more likely to respond to you once that they recognize that you are on the same field. That is why a child is more likely to respond to an adult who would tend to sit down or kneel when talking to him. By physically insinuating that they are on the same level, the adult places the child on a fair level. The child then reciprocates by listening intently. Communicative adults who are interested in other people are those who would tend to do the same. That is why they would also stoop their shoulders when they are talking to a slouched person, or keep their chest out when talking to a proud one. People who are used to building rapport with people are known to take after the posture and mannerisms of the person whom they are talking to. As you go along the journey of practicing these skills, you will certainly be good at it. This means that your skills in rapport will flow subconsciously and naturally with your conversation with another person. In fact, there will be times that you are not even consciously aware that you already had built a good amount of rapport with that person. More advanced application of techniques on building good amount of rapport are covered in the subsequent manipulation tactics. Manipulation tactic number 2. Use content to build rapport with your target. Conduct a sort of study on your target person. For example, put yourself in positions where you will be able to learn about subjects that your target is interested in or is connected emotionally. If you are also interested on the subjects that your target is interested in, then your work in manipulating such person will be relatively easier. Why is that? It is because people are more likely to respond positively when the person who is trying to engage them is similar to them. For example, if you are a billionaire who made his riches through software development, you are more likely to either like the other billionaires in the same room, or you are going to talk to others who develop their own software. Remember that people are more likely to talk to you if you exude a personality that they also exhibit. On the other hand, if you are not interested on the subjects that your target is interested in, then your work in manipulating such person will be relatively more difficult. If this is the case, what you can do is to learn about these subjects by reading about them in the newspaper or in the search engines. Remember that you do not need to have an expert knowledge on these subjects. Rather, having some basic knowledge about these subjects are enough to give you a head start on the conversation. The reason for this is that people like to have conversations about subjects that they are truly interested in. Having conversations about these subjects lowers their mental defenses and allows in new data and information. In other words, once the mental defenses of your target are down, this is the perfect time to manipulate such target with your new data or information. At the same time, keep in mind that people are mostly interested about themselves, and if you are just like them, they are going to be interested in you. For that same reason, musicians hang out with musicians to have a musician talk. That is also the same reason why a fellow musician is more likely to sell a particular type of beer, than a person from a beer company would. That is because the former already knows how a musician can enjoy that drink, but a salesman from a beer company wouldn't be interested in that experience. However, a musician is also more likely to be beer from someone who is interested in music, or who is trying to learn an instrument. It is not because they really like the product, it's just that they genuinely like the seller. When you observe the real world, people are more likely to buy anything from a person who tries to empathize with their interests. Manipulation tactic number 3. Use processes to build rapport with your target. Apart from building rapport by having a conversation with the subject that your target is interested in, there is another strategy you can use that is also effective in manipulating your target. This strategy is using processes with the goal of making you appear similar with your target. How do you execute this manipulation tactic? You can execute this by performing the same activity, processes, that your target is currently involved in. These processes include the following: place or setting for work, type of work, small and medium business or enterprises, social structure, family, clubs, sports, communities, hobbies, affiliations, fraternity, masonry, politics, religion, etc. As you can see, there are a lot of processes that you can use in order to build rapport with your target. Perhaps you both have worked in the military before and are thus both Army veterans. Perhaps both of you are lawyers or surgeon by profession. Perhaps you are both members of the Toastmasters Club. Perhaps you are both into fishing in the lakes. Perhaps you are both members of a fraternity or sorority. Now, once you have a process that is in common ground with your target, you have to involve this common ground as a point of connection in your activities with your target. For example, if you are both into fishing in the lake, you can invite your target into fishing this weekend. This way, you will be able to demonstrate to your target that you are just like him or her through shared experience/s. In other words, the common ground is critical to your success in manipulating your target. Now, when you think about it, you can convince a person to do something for you if you see to it that you empathize with the environment that he is in. If you are trying to ask a fisherman a favor, you are more likely to get it in his wharf, not on a golf course. Introduce the idea that you are interested in what he does for a living by mentioning points of interests in his home. Mention that your grandparents once did fishing for a living, and that is how they were able to raise your parents. Say that you have always wanted to do fishing so you can go back to your roots. What you would most probably get is this: a new skill, and that favor that you asked. Manipulation tactic number 4. Induce reciprocity initially. People do not buy your ideas, your products, your political office candidates, your causes or your service. Rather, they buy you. As such, your first goal is for your target to like you as a person more than anything else. One technique you can do for your target to like you is to induce reciprocity. To put it simply, inducing reciprocity means that you will give away an object, service or favor to your target. Take note, however, that this object, service or favor must be perceived as valuable by your target. The reason for this strategy is by giving your target person a valuable object, service or favor, he or she will be compelled to do likewise by the feeling of gratitude towards you. You do not only observe this type of friendly manipulation in politics, but also in everywhere else. Generally, this works by making a person remember that he technically owes you a favor. It would work better if you have been able to meet before, and you are able to change his circumstances dramatically in his favor. When you do this, say something subtle, but to the effect of, "You owe me." That person would always associate you with the occurrence of the favor, and whenever he sees you, he would be obliged to give you small favors. Why does this work? Well, it works because the person who owes you a favor does not really objectify you as a literal debtor. Since you managed to help him overcome a difficult time, he would always want to extend help. And the best thing is that you do not have to do something great or put yourself in danger. The moment another person recognizes that you went out of your way to help a person who is not your relative, they develop a certain bond with you. Now, going out of your way deliberately for another person is of course deliberate manipulation. Any person with a sense of dignity and honor would definitely want to repay you in any form of favor that you ask them, as long as they can afford it. The key to getting the most out of reciprocity is to make them feel that the favor that you are going to ask them would cost them practically nothing, but one that can establish a mutual benefit. It would then appear that you are also doing them a favor by letting them help you. What does this establish then? You have built a relationship that would put you as the alpha. As long as you are able to establish that you are the one who can think of a good plan that would benefit both of you, he would be happy to extend help to you. This works since that other person thinks that he would be a great addition to your plan. He becomes aware that you would not be successful if you did not reach out for his help. That makes him aware that somehow you would also be indebted to him. Chapter 4, The 5 Golden Tactics for Persuasion. In this chapter you will learn, make the damaging of mission share a part of you with your target, knock their socks off, be precise, make the damaging of mission. One of the most effective ways in persuading your target is by admitting a weakness, downside, drawback or disadvantage in your case or proposal before the other person does. This principle has been known, understood and used for hundreds of years. The reason for admitting a weakness in your case or your claim is that by doing so, you appear to be more credible to the other party or your target. This will be useful in today's society where everybody is skeptical. By being skeptical, it is meant that people in society today will not usually believe a case or claim if only the benefits, advantages and other arguments in its favor are admitted. As such, expect that people will usually be on the lookout for a catch. In other words, by admitting a negative, flaw or drawback of your claim, proposal or case at the outset, you will be immediately viewed as a person that is honest and trustworthy. This tactic is one of the best tactics used by most people who pitch their ideas or products. It works well because the seller would always offer a personal testimonial about the product, by making his current experience so much better than his life before. The contrast makes the target very aware of what he wants. He wants to never experience the trouble you went through, and whatever you tested and personally used would save him the trouble. Why would this tactic work? It makes them aware that you are capable of making mistakes, which make them feel that you do not have your defenses up all the time and that you are able to relax in front of them. In addition, your target will feel more at ease with your presence because you do not appear to be too enthusiastic in persuading him or her to buy your claim, proposal, or case. You are instead providing them an opening that they can probe. Now, that makes your entire claim a very exciting proposition. It becomes something very interesting that they would want to find out other similar points in it. As such, the moment you become trustworthy in your target size is the moment of perfect opportunity to strike. As an illustrative example, if you have been watching the USA TV legal drama called Law and Order, you will notice that the lawyers in the series usually bring up a small fact that they clearly do not want the other lawyer to bring up during the trial of the case. However, the truth is they really want the lawyer from the opposing side to bring it up so they can also bring up a solid argument that is favorable to them. In other words, bringing up the flaw is really a bait to further their claim. Once the lawyer in the opposing side brings it up during the trial, the flaw or fact will not be as damaging because they had already prepared to counterattack on such claim. Share a part of you with your target. You can better persuade your target if you performed something that will be favorable to him or her. For example, you can show your confidence to your target by helping him or her with a problem. In other words, put yourself in a situation where you can help him or her in any way that you can. For example, if your target is engaged in selling real estate, stocks or insurance, you can make a phone call to a personal friend regarding the products that your target is trying to sell. If, on the other hand, your target is a businessman, offer to distribute his or her business cards to your friends and acquaintances. If your target needs to be introduced to a politician or a policymaker because he or she needs such politician or policymaker to support an environmental or healthcare cause, by all means introduce the two persons with each other. Hence, more than anything else, this means that you will share a part of your time and effort with your target. Offer your help. Any form of help will be appreciated. In this way, he or she will feel more comfortable with you. Also, your target will feel a certain connection towards you, which you are just like him or her. Once your target becomes comfortable with you, he or she will lower his or her mental defenses. At the end of the day, once he or she lowers his or her mental defenses, this is the perfect time to persuade him or her in your proposal, claim or case. Here is what a lot of self-help gurus would do. They give a little background about themselves, and that would always be about the time when they were not successful. They show up and tell you that before they discovered an efficient way to change their lives, they would tell you that their methods worked because they tried doing things the hard way. However, they are willing to show you how to do things that would tremendously improve your life just the way you like it, the easy way. The tactic appeals to a lot of people because these successful people are willing to share what they have gone through, and that they are willing to share that secret. It would also be advisable to make it a point that you are also like your target, and that you are offering your claim because you think you are very similar. You can always persuade individuals by making them think that people with the same status or share of experiences would do what you would do. Now, they would find that they can relate to an expert like you. Knock their socks off. Knocking your target's socks off means that you give him or her a pleasant surprise. How can you do this? Blow your target away with some astonishing fact, an amazing claim, or just something that only a few people will be able to know. Make a claim, case or proposal that you will be able to do. Or, you can also show him or her something that has never been done to him or her before. Also, this can be something that can change the way they view your proposal or claim. This will have the effect of opening their minds up in such a way that will make them accept new ideas and thoughts. In other words, this puts them in a state of comfort and reception. The psychology behind this is that people generally like to be pleasantly surprised. If your target was pleasantly surprised, it will be relatively easier to make him or her say yes to your proposal, claim or case. Do you know why? This is because making a decision to follow another person, you, will always be relatively easier when you help such person discover some amazing new fact. Moreover, making a decision to give in to your claim or proposal will be relatively easier because your target is feeling more comfortable and receptive. There is a reason why people do believe in success stories. Everyone wants to always find the easier way of doing things, and they are willing to buy whatever our person used to get out of a terrible situation, which is likely to happen to them as well. If you are selling a paracord, that bracelet that people usually use that is made out of strings made to hold a parachute together, keep in mind that they would probably not find themselves jumping out of a plane and using a parachute to save their lives. However, if you tell people that a paracord can hold more than 500 kilos of weight so they can use to tow their cars, and that it is the preferred bracelet of hunters and adventurers because it can serve as a tourniquet, a fishing line, or something to tie up their tents, they would buy one from you for thrice the price. That is because those are the details that would make them think that your product is much more valuable than it seems. Another valuable tip related to this persuasion tactic is presenting the proposal that you want to be approved or the product that you want to be bought last. This means that you have spent a considerable time asking a proposal to be approved or product to be bought from your target. Because of your efforts, your target normally will be compelled to approve a single item or a single product after dismissing you since the outset of the conversation. As such, it would be strategically beneficial to place your most important proposal or product at the end of the presentation or conversation. Be precise if you want to add an element of believability and credibility to your statements. You should be precise and specific in stating details with your target. The reason for this is that if you have precise and specific details in your statements, this means that you know how they affect certain things. If you know how your proposal, claim or case can affect certain things, your statements are harder to attack. In addition, most people unconsciously feel better when they are told of very specific and precise information. Why do people become convinced by statistics and all sorts of numbers? It is because specific numbers offer them a sense of security. Of course, people do not believe that something would work 100% of the time. They would want something that has almost foolproof because the almost perfect object that they can possibly get is still better than all the other products that they have tried. For that reason, people also prefer to buy products that use numerical adjectives like most, almost every, or 9 out of 10. But notice the number of questions that you get if you insist that your product is perfect. That is because people do not believe in perfection. They would rather get something that can be flawed but is still guaranteed to work if they fulfill the given conditions. For people, that makes your product exciting and credible. For example, suppose you are an operations management consultant. How can you apply the principle in your dealings with your target? Well, you can tell your target that by availing your consultancy services, his or her sales will increase by 46% in 6 months. Now, that is specific. However, if you tell someone that you can guarantee an increase of 100% in his sales, then your target is more likely to walk away. That is because unless you can show him some big-time client who can back up your story, you are not getting your target as a buyer. Offer a benefit. What makes a good offer? An offer should definitely look like it is for the benefit of your target and not yours. For that reason, you need to make an offer that would make that same appeal. Keep in mind that most people are more interested in themselves, and not you. They are more likely to be conscious about themselves, and they would definitely not be after your interests. If you are going to make them act according to what you have in mind, you better make sure that you are making it look like they are getting more benefit than you would. Why do people buy products from salesmen and become convinced that it is the right decision to do so? The reason is simple. The salesman does not talk about how much commission he would be getting from the sale, and how that profit is going to improve his life. A salesman does not have to beg by mentioning those. However, he would still get to enjoy the benefit of it if he tries to do it from his customer's perspective. All he needs to do is to make it a point that his product is of superior quality, and that the customer would more or less need that item in his life. The customer, of course, knows that there is something beneficial for the salesman. However, a customer buys without hesitation, because he understands that it is just the way that their roles go. However, if the scene goes with the salesman putting priority on his needs, the customer would definitely want to walk away. When that happens, both of them would not enjoy the benefit. Now, when it comes to persuading someone that it will be to his benefit to do you a favor, Make him a good offer that he would see his benefit first before the reward that you will eventually get. Seal the deal. How important is your closing spiel when it comes to persuading someone? In the art of doing magic, it would be the prestige, where the highlight happens. Without a good closer, your effort is not yet certain to come into fruition. For this reason, it would always be wise to reiterate parts of your conversation wherein you went into some form of agreement. If your target once said in the conversation that he would like to try whatever it is that you are selling, then keep that moment in mind. Before the conversation dies down, make sure that you pull up the closing information. You can say something like this: since you mentioned that you would like to try product, I will go ahead and wrap it for you. Now, you appear as a very enthusiastic salesperson with a proactive attitude, something that a lot of customers like. Now, if they refuse to have their order wrapped, ask them if you should pack it for them to pick up later. Never say that they have the option to back out of the earlier agreement that you had. Make the target remember that he liked it, and never insinuate that there is an option to say no. You would be surprised that no matter how old this sales tactic is, it works for almost anything. It is because people are mostly concerned about how to make decision-making a lot easier. Proactive people know that individuals are willing to be bent to your will if they feel that there is someone who is trying to save them from all the bother. Chapter 5, The 4 Golden Tactics for Deception. In this chapter you will learn: get it done easier, faster and better, induce the sense of scarcity, relate a friend, introduce a role model. Get it done easier, faster and better. In this day and age, everybody wants everything to be easier, faster and better. People want things easy because they are lazy. People want things fast because they want things now. People want things better because they feel that they deserve to have better things and services. Look at society today. Everything is easy, fast and better. For example, there is the McDonald's and Burger King franchise to provide you fast food. There is FedEx to provide you with fast packaging and mailing services. There is the Powerball lottery to provide you with a chance to become rich fast, and there are laundry services, especially in urban areas, to provide you with clean clothes in an hour. As such, you have to take advantage of this inclination of people. How? Well, the best way to make use of this inclination of people is by promising your target that your business, cause or product will be easier, faster and better than anything else. This is especially true when you are a new player in an industry. The extra effort will make your target desire your proposal more than any proposals that he or she have encountered in the past. Another way to convince people is to tell them that everyone else around them is most probably using whatever it is you're offering because it provides that rewarding experience of efficiency and practicality. Upon learning that your product is being enjoyed by a lot of other people, it will become clear to your target that it's a smart idea to avail of it as well. However, you should deliver to your promises so the next time your target will need you, he or she will have trust and faith in your capabilities. In addition, you can also take advantage of this inclination by tapping his or her social circle. With this tactic in mind, you would be able to create fads that more people would buy into. That would widen your network and be able to deliver to more people. For example, once you promised to be better and delivered, you can now ask your target to refer you to his or her social circle. This is called the referral system. The referral system is the easiest way to spread an idea to others by tapping into your target's own network. This is also the way in which you can meet other people and tap into their networks as well. By establishing that you have a superior product or idea and by tapping into multiple persons' social circles, you exponentially spread your interests. Now, that opens up a brand new opportunity for you to influence other people, and that is by introducing the idea that what you are offering is bound to run out soon. Induce the sense of scarcity when people know that something they want is limited in terms of time, color, options, availability and quantity. Their desire for that something increases exponentially. Corollary to this principle, whenever you desire something but you cannot have it easily, your desire for the same significantly increases. This is nothing but human nature and one of the basic laws of economics. People have always been aware of the law of supply and demand, and they know how much pain it is to buy something with a much higher price just because the demand for it went up. For that reason, they go to markets in order for them to purchase a product that is more likely to become extremely popular in the future and take advantage of its original price. Now, this tactic is being used by many stores. They first get people to understand the inherent value of their product, which they know that the customers would tremendously like. Now, they are going to throw in some freebies and cheap price, which would make them generate enough profit that would cover their capital. Afterwards, they are going to hide the product from the market, and once they felt that there is enough clamor for the product to come back to the shelves, they are going to put it back on a ridiculously high price. What does this action do? It makes the store owner look good by listening to the voice of the people, and then he earns a lot of extra money for doing so. However, he does not need the people to know the second benefit that he enjoyed. All that he would need them to be reminded of is the first benefit. From the point of view of his targets, he is merely trying to make his customers avoid the pain by reintroducing an old product, which would most probably be much pricier compared to the new products that his store is offering. However, the customers did not know that the store owner has already guaranteed his personal reward. He definitely knows that his old product would sell no matter what. Now, how can you take advantage of this principle? The first element of this principle is that your target must be aware that your service, offer, proposal or product is something that will be valuable to him or her. Should he or she lose the opportunity to have this right now, he or she will suffer. The second element is the act of inducement of scarcity. Now, you can induce scarcity to your target. Tell him or her that what you are offering right now will only be available for a limited time or for limited quantities, in terms of business operations. By inducing scarcity, your target will realize that there is a real possibility that he or she might not get what she truly desires because time or stock will run out fast. As such, it will be crucial to tell your target in no uncertain terms how he or she will lose in this situation. As an illustrative example, suppose you are a businessman and your target is a potential customer. You can tell your target that, "I would definitely hate to see you miss out on an opportunity to have this latest iPhone. Remember that only 2,000 iPhone units of this model will be available. If you wish, I can give you an opportunity to reserve one for yourself." That example would work because it involves a specific number, which makes the claim of scarcity appear to be legitimate. A salesman would sell how much his target would love or need the product that he offers, and that he is offering it for a certain amount. The thing is that the product is going to be taken out of the shelves soon, because it is that special. He can make the claim stronger by saying that most people can only get it on reservation because the competition is very tough, but still, it is so worth it to fight for the product. To increase the pressure on the customer, a store owner can announce that there is a specific deadline for the customers to make up their mind. Missing that deadline is the same as missing the entire opportunity to benefit from the product. Now, if you were that salesman, you can even improve your pitch by saying that you are willing to go out of your way and make sure that your target would get a fair fighting chance to get that product. However, he should make that effort count. Insinuate that it can be painful for you to go through the hassle of having to fill up the paperwork or to cut in line. Now, you are guaranteed to make a sale, and you get a good tip as well. Limit the options. There is a known fallacy in logic that people always fall for, and salesmen and magicians love it. It is the fallacy of the limited choice. How you apply it in your trade is really simple. You only offer your target two choices that would always work to your benefit. This works well with the scarcity trick. You would definitely observe this trick when you are trying to window shop for prices and a salesman approaches you to assist you. After you have found out what benefits you can get, the salesman would always ask you if you would get that item now, or reserve it for later. Take note that no salesman would ever mention that you can just refuse to take the offer. The trick is even deeper than it seems. If you would say that you are not interested, the salesman would have the right to ask you why you are not getting the product. You, the customer, are bound to feel the pressure because you already agreed to the benefits that are mentioned earlier. You went in on that store aware of the price, and since you like what it does, there is no reason why you should not purchase it. When the options are limited, most people are only bound to act according to the options that they are presented with. Why is that the case? The answer's simple. It's because most people are usually too tired to think sometimes. Relate a friend. It is human nature to like people who are just like them. This is because people have built some trust and comfort with a friend over the years. In addition, people will also follow the behaviors, actions and thought processes of their friends. It is often said that birds of the same feather flock together. How do you take advantage of this? Suppose you need something from your target. These may refer to the following. You need to make the target sign and approve your proposal. You need to make the target purchase your product or avail of your services. You can simply tell your target that you have already secured the approval of the target's friend before. Have already sold to the target's friend in the past. At this point, all you need to do is to make sure that you have the right network to implement this type of strategy. If you are trying to sell a product or an idea to your target, make sure that you can make him aware that you are somehow connected to him via his friend. Suppose you have met your target in a party, ask him about the people he knows. Then scan your mind if there is a possible person within his friend or acquaintance list that already exists in your contact list. You can also go the other way around. You can ask him if he knows a friend that is also in his circle. Now, the manipulation starts when you explain how your friend, aka person is very similar to your target. Note all their similarities, how they choose food, how they see to it that they get a promotion, etc. As much as possible. Paint a very vivid picture in his head about their similarities, and how they are very likely to have the same solution for mostly anything. After doing so, introduce a problem, particularly a problem that your target does not know how to solve yet. Or better yet, introduce a problem that would involve your product or that your idea would most definitely solve. Now, the goal is to make your target feel that someone he knows, who acts very similarly to him, bought your product, and has been enjoying the benefits since he did. Since you have painted a picture of their similarity, the target would hate to feel that someone who just earns the same amount of money or goes to the same work has been able to practically solve a problem, and he did not. You can insinuate the idea that he does not have to miss out on the opportunity that you are offering. If his friend could, then he can. Make him feel that you are on his side, not you only willing to help him solve your problem. You can also share some other things that involve your product that his friend probably didn't know. As you can see, most people would want to come up with the same solution to simple and complex life problems the same way their peers would. However, they would also want to discover the better way of doing things. That means that if you showed your target that there is actually a more efficient way of using your product, he would be the more inclined to buy that from you, just because he wants to get the friendly upper hand. Introduce a role model. Role models are most often the quintessential part of advertising. That is why people who are in commercials are often good-looking, or that they appear to be always making the smarter choice. People, like those who are in the commercials, would always want to enjoy the better side of life. For that reason, if you are trying to plant an idea or if you are trying to sell something, take advantage of the fact that most people would want to play an important role. The only way they can do that is to take after a role model. Imagine that you are in a bar and you are sitting next to a handsome young man who looks like he has power over women. True enough, he can send drinks to whatever table he points at and gets the results that he wants. He gets ladies' numbers, and they are actually approaching him. You would also want to get the time and attention of a random beautiful woman. If you feel that this role model, sitting at the bar, is getting all that self-esteem from his drink, what are you most likely to do? You are most likely to say this: "I'd get what he's having." Now, how do you apply this scene to your art of manipulation? You can introduce a role model to your target. However, a role model is not like anyone else. He must offer a benefit that only he can offer at the moment. At the same time, he has to be a person who does things like an expert would. How does a role model enter into the story of a deception? Role models are always the authority that every deceptive person takes advantage of. The reason is simple: everybody would want to believe the expert, and everybody wants to buy whatever there is in a powerful person's arsenal. Now, if you have the qualities of a leader or you can act like one, you definitely would have leverage in any argument. By establishing that you are a subject matter expert, you are definitely going to make the most believable claim. That is because everything that you say becomes an almost instant valid claim. Since you have established that you have always been knowledgeable about the topic at hand, you will always have the upper hand. It is because even if you do not win the argument with your target, you would definitely still be able to influence the other people in the vicinity. By maximizing the number of targets of your deception, you will be able to manipulate all the other people that surrounds your main target. In effect, you increase the likelihood of making them do the job of convincing your main target. Have you ever heard of cognitive dissonance? That is the trick that your mind experiences when you believe in something, but other people around you are all saying otherwise. For example, if a teacher in a class you are in asks the question, to which you believe the right answer is A and the entire class says that should be B, you feel confused and uncomfortable. It is because that even though you are certain that you are doing the right thing, your body begins to react differently. What happens is you give out a different answer so that you would stop feeling weird. In the end, you are almost bound to give B as an answer just to escape the pressure. Chapter 6: The Secret of Pacing and Leading. When you are trying to build rapport and get your audience to follow your lead, there are two main techniques that you have to employ. They are pacing and leading, which enables people to build confidence and trust around you and allow themselves to go to the direction where you want them to go. These techniques would be very helpful in most situations where you need people to agree with you and begin seeing things your way. Why is it beneficial? While most people think that they do not want their emotions and thoughts manipulated, but somehow they would need a person that can influence them into thinking which direction they are most likely be willing to go. They have to accept, however, that it is not always the case wherein they can make a conscious decision to know what is going to do them good. You, however, can make them go to a direction that they want in a faster speed. Pacing and leading works like a dance. It takes two people in agreement in order for it to work, which involves another important element, compromise. Without harmony between two people, they will not go anywhere that is mutually beneficial for them. Like in any relationship, they would be stuck in a rut. With this, you will know that being able to Manipulate people into your line of thinking is more like entering into an agreement with them and allowing their subconscious to make perfect sense of their actions by helping them build a new comfort zone, which is around you. You will also figure out that once they are comfortable and that they're more about mirroring, a technique to build rapport discussed in an earlier chapter, is a key practice that you need to master in order for you to introduce rapport in every interaction with other people. Mirroring is also termed pacing by some practitioners of neuro-linguistic programming, which defines it as the practice of matching the actions and behavior of your audience in order to introduce trust into your interaction. With that said, that means that being able to match your audience allows you to break their barriers, which allows you to introduce rapport. Why do you need to match another person's behavior or actions? Let's use the example of attending a black tie event. Most people would prefer to still wear formal clothes to attend such event, even if the invitation did not specify that it is a requirement for them to do so. They would find the extra time and effort to make sure that they are going to appear in the event in their best tuxedo or gowns, because they feel that they are going to look different from the crowd if they did not do so. At the same time, you will find yourself being looked from head to toe if you should ever go to that event in casual clothes. You will also find out soon that no one wants to talk to you if you are dressed differently. When you think about that situation, you'd find that most people would actually want to engage a person that is similar to them. Billionaires often hang out with billionaires, and actors with fellow actors. It is not to promote segregation and shun diversity, but that is just plain human nature. People tend to hang out with people who they think can understand their beliefs and lifestyle. If you have the nasty habit of smoking, you might find a silver lining in doing that. Vice people who smoke with their clients or bosses are mostly those who are bound to get the upper hand in closing deals or getting promotions in the long run. It does not mean that they are more competent, but rather, they are the ones who are able to establish rapport with their target. Who knows that you can get that much out of a single vice? Essentially, mirroring or pacing is following the behavior of your target that is essential to your mission. You need to understand which part of their behavior would matter the most to them. If you want to build a rapport with a musician, you would most possibly want to listen to the kind of music that they like. You would want to take cues from your specific target on what could possibly make them pay attention to you. Now, when they know that you can possibly speak their language, you would be able to soon lead them to the direction where you want them to go. So what makes similarity that your target perceive that you have lead to the element of trust? The answer is simple. People want to trust something that offers them comfort. That familiarity that you are willing to offer them offers them that, because it makes them avoid the convoluted relationship of people that has different ways of approaching life. People normally root for people that can offer them any reason to think that they are one of them. However, there is a thing called just too much pacing, which makes your effort to establish rapport too obvious. For example, you would find that trying to talk to people about every common interest that you have, or trying to buy the same clothes that they wear would make them soon irritated with your presence. They begin being straightforward to get it done and over with you. They would ask you what you want out of them, and they begin to raise their defenses around you. With that in mind, remember that the best kind of pacing is being able to get the results that you want to get from your target without being noticed that you are trying to belong. How you can perfect pacing? There are many ways to make sure that your target does not notice that you are subconsciously establishing rapport. Here are some of the aspects that you can pace with, which allows you to mirror your target without being too obvious that you are trying to win him over. 1. Body posture. Posture is a good determiner of a person's mood, and being able to mirror the way a person sits or stands sets you into the mode of being the empathizer. If you are trying to talk to a guy sitting in a bar to offer him anything, You can sit a few seats apart from him and order what he is having from the bartender. If your target is slouching, slouch too, but appear like you are not paying attention to him. It would make him notice you from the corner of his eye, and start an empathic conversation. He might ask you how your day is. That is your cue to start a conversation. 2. Figures of speech, metaphors, or specific phrases. If you listen to a group of people for a few minutes, you will find out that every person in that room has a specific choice of words for description or naming things. Some may like to use the word, "that stuff," to refer to a group of objects that he can't remember the proper term for, or they may use the word, "bunch." Now, when you want to establish rapport to specific people in that group, make sure that you also use the words that they repeatedly say. That would prompt them to invite you to join their conversation. 3. Personal style. Don't you ever wonder why people tend to always say, "I'll have what he's having" in a bar to establish a conversation? At the same time, do you notice that it would be their target that is most likely to say the first word to them? This applies not only in the bar setting. This technique is also very applicable in malls and other locations that would have 2 or more people who are trying to establish rapport with each other. 4. Tone, accent, and tempo. It is no secret that people with specific speech patterns because of their linguistic upbringing are those people who typically end up talking to each other. If you are good with manipulating your speech patterns, accent, and talking speed, then you can use this mirroring technique to establish rapport with people in different locations or ethno-linguistic origins. At the same time, it also pays to pay attention to the voice tone and tempo of the person that you are talking to. You may notice that some people would have difficulty trying to understand what you are saying when you do not match with the way they speak. The key is this: if you feel that your target can understand you better when you match their speaking tone or tempo, do it. 5. Orientation towards career, time, or life. You may observe that different people with different jobs have specific word choices when it comes to work, schedules, or even how they describe their objectives. For example, people who work in an office are most likely to always address future tasks to belong to tomorrow, but most freelancers are likely to think of work to be happening on a specific schedule. You may also notice that business owners tend to think about the profit that they make, while employees tend to think about the amount of salary that they get according to payout cutoffs. With that in mind, you can sell a product to these people in terms of how they normally view money or the type of their orientation for time. 6. Personal values. One of the time-tested approaches to establishing rapport is to pace with one's biases, political and religious views, and orientation towards pop culture. In the US, for example, people tend to group themselves as Democrats or Republicans. You may find that these people have separate views on the separation of churches and states, as well as opinions regarding gender roles. If you want to establish rapport with anyone who belongs to either group, you have to pace with their approach regarding worldviews, or you would not be able to enter into any compromise with them. Mirroring magic tricks. When you mirror your target for a considerable amount of time, say 30 minutes, you may find that you are able to pace with him unconsciously, even when you get separated in a room. You would notice that you are able to inherit some of his traits, such as his most subtle movements or his manner of speaking, even if those are not the actions or behavior that you are not trying to pace with. Some books of NLP techniques would tell you that this is perfectly normal. By only locking in on certain action patterns of your target, there is a big tendency that you will be able to subconsciously mirror his behavior, which makes it very natural for you to build rapport afterwards. At the same time, research tells that pacing with a target would also allow one to know certain things about the subject, and it would be much easier to get confirmation about this knowledge afterwards. You may also feel that after pacing with a person for some time, you may feel that you are able to establish rapport with your target, even from across the room. Now here is the part where you try to reap the rewards of pacing, which is leading. Essentially, leading refers to the act where you can deliberately move another person's actions or beliefs to a goal that you have in mind. When you have been pacing with a person for some time, you would feel that when you change your movement, your target begins to follow you, as if he is following your lead. You may try this simple exercise to see if your pacing and attempt to lead is working. Walk with your target and mirror his posture and walking pace. Follow the way he sways his arms and make sure that you are able to mirror most of his subtle movements. When you feel that you are already in sync, deliberately change the way you move, for example switch the footing of the steps or walk faster. You would notice that your target would subconsciously imitate your movements, and he would believe that he is the one setting that movement. The good thing is that leading does not only affect your target's movement. If you are pacing with his language and the rest of his actions, you may find that you can actually create the decision and action that you want to get from him. That means that after building a rapport and sensing with your target, you can effectively persuade him into your line of thinking. You may find that a careful balance of rapport and leading can get you the results that you desire. You may also see that there are certain linguistic approaches in order for you to command that person to initiate change in their behavior. The use of verbs, for example, creates that mental energy needed to initiate change. With the use of action words, the mental energy created can help your target to create the action that you desire, because your target would desire to create the physical action to match with their thoughts. However, just like in pacing, leading requires great subtlety in order for you to avoid any possible resistance from your target. If that happens, make sure that you pace with them again before using triggers in order for them to make the proper order of reasoning for the change of your behavior. You would be able to notice that as long as you go back to sensing with their independent actions, you would have the ultimate leverage in persuading people to think the way you do. Chapter 7, The Art of Selling. Selling is the interesting mixture of persuasion, manipulation, and deception. When you are able to master these techniques, you would be able to harness unlimited leverage when it comes to selling any product to any type of client that you may possibly have. What you need to sell first when it comes to sales, you have to keep in mind that the most important commodity that you have to offer your client is yourself. People are only willing to make sure that you are able to bend their mind into agreeing with you if you are able to see to it that you are able to make them accept you as a seller. In an essence, you are trying to make them agree first to the fact that a person like you is going to do something for them. If they don't, you would have to go back to an earlier stage of establishing rapport. If you have not sold anything in the past, that hardly matters. People are not looking at your track record or how many times you have been promoted, they are just looking at you. They would only want to see first if you are a person worthy of their time. Selling yourself rather than paying a lot of attention to what you are supposed to offer a potential customer goes a longer way. There are many occasions wherein customers may not find that they need the stuff that they get from people, but they try to make logical sense that the item would be useful to them one day, just because the salesman told them that it would be the case. At the same time, they are more likely to buy from you again, no matter what you are selling in the future. In that sense, being able to sell yourself allows you to enjoy an advantage over people who offer similar products or ideas over a prolonged period of time. Understanding what makes people buy. Why do people desire to get something from a store? Their process is really simple. They try to make logical explanation for their decisions, no matter what that item is. They would create a world inside their heads in which all their decisions make perfect sense, and no matter what happens, they will try to defend their decision. When you think about it, that goes the same for their decisions about their relationships with other people. The problem that you are most likely to encounter whenever you offer yourself and your ideas to someone is this: people convince themselves that they are right after they made the decision. That means that once after they have accepted to offer, they are most likely to stick to the decision. But getting to that part is the hardest part. The good news is that there is a workaround for this problem. If you are having a hard time trying to convince them that they would not ever have the buyer's remorse, place their mindset in the future, where they can find that they would definitely not regret accepting the offer that you have for them. How do you do that then? It is simple. Every person has a specific buying pattern, which they do again and again because they often feel that they do not regret doing similar decisions. In order to take advantage of that, know the things that they are most likely to buy and relate your offer to that. The clue to their buying formula is hidden in the choice of words, so better pay attention to that. For example, if you are trying to sell a car to someone, you might want to find out their experience when they last bought one. Ask them the reason why they bought that car in the first place. If they said that they loved their old car because it was beautiful, then you know how to make the right approach. All you need to tell them is that the car that you are offering has a sleek design that they are going to love. That solves the first part of figuring out their buying formula, which tells you that they are most likely to buy items that appeal to their visual sense. Now, if they tell you that their old car is beautiful and then they instantly fell in love with it, you know what their visual reaction to anything does to them afterwards. Now you know that every time you sell them something that appeals to their visual aesthetics, they are not likely to regret it. However, you may not get a direct answer from a person that you are targeting. The reason for that is that a lot of people do not even realize that there is a reason for their behavior, or they cannot remember the feeling anymore. Now, what you need to pay attention to is their body language along with their linguistic preferences. If they said that they bought their old car because they liked the way it looked when they first saw it, yet you see that their eyes are looking downward left or that they are fiddling something with their hands, you would figure out that they are people who are more likely to buy things that they can manipulate or touch, and that they are more in touch with their emotions. The best way to appeal to them is to describe the emotions that they are most likely to feel when they say yes to what you are offering them. Chapter 8: How to ensure you will be making an offer. When you are trying to persuade someone to listen to your ideas and accept them with an open mind, you need to make sure that you will be able to follow certain steps in order for you to be able to close them. The following steps would allow you to have the opportunity to present yourself and your idea, build a relationship, and then lead them to the action that you want to get. 1. Get the invitation. It is somehow true that salesmen and vampires are alike. They need an invitation in order for them to be able to enter someone's territory. However, that is the same for most people. No one would be able to build any type relationship without having the other person open himself to any possible change. However, you would notice that it is not always easy to get invited into other people's lives. When you want to open the conversation with someone, you would often have to endure their height and resistance, and you can probably guess what happens next. The other person is just waiting for you to launch into your well-rehearsed opening in order for him to say, "No, I'm not interested." So what do you do to get your opening to get past the initial hello, and start persuading that other person that you are worthy of his time? What you need to do is to start mirroring him in order for you to build an initial relationship. However, you might find it challenging to do that when you are trying to sell anything over the phone. You have to get the invitation within 15 seconds before your selling tactic becomes threatened. Face to face, you have a little more time to get the invite, since you can effectively mirror them within 2-3 minutes and secure the right to continue with your proposition. 2. Build your rapport. Once your target has come to the conclusion that you are worthy of his time, it is time to nourish that initial relationship by carefully pacing with him. The idea of building rapport with pacing is to ensure that you will be able to build that relationship quickly and establish that you are a person that your target can trust. However, make sure that you would not be moving towards your main goal too quickly or too slowly, otherwise, you would lose the relationship. When you lose that relationship, you are not only losing the invitation from that person, but also create resistance as well. You would know that you have successfully built a relationship when the target is beginning to confide to you about your needs, and that whenever you propose anything, you find that there is little or no resistance at all. 3. Offer your idea through consultation. People are not gullible and empty-headed. No matter who they are or how clueless they appear, they would still want to make sure that they have a hand in their decisions. They do not want other people to make their decisions for them. That is why asking them to agree with you in a form of consultation is the best move that you can make. However, you can only go through this phase when you and your target entered a relationship and a clear commitment that you are willing to enter a compromise. Since consultation is really an exchange of information, this is also the point wherein you encounter objections from your target. However, you need to see that those objections present you the opportunity to clarify the benefits that you are trying to present. You will also find that you will be able to explain yourself better and handle objections more efficiently when you have secured a relationship that is built on mutual trust. However, you may find that continuous consultation may create a resistance wherein you know that you cannot continue offering your idea anymore to your target. When he says, "Let me think about it," you know that he is more likely to not listen to anything that you have to say anymore. However, you can secure an invitation instead to make your relationship stronger. That would rekindle his commitment to you and become more open to making a compromise. 4. Reinforce your bond. When you live in an ideal world, you can easily get what you want out of a deal from people once you get them to open up to you. However, it rarely happens. One time or another, you will have to reveal parts of your offer that would raise objections and sometimes that would end up with your target backing off from your offer. To prevent that from happening, see to it that you continuously create rapport with your target in order for them to see that you will come up with a positive solution to their problems. Remember that being consultative and trying to reinforce a positive relationship means differently. Reinforcing your relationship while you are trying to offer means putting your target's share of benefits first before yours, which makes your target feel that you are willing to think of his comfort before taking care of your needs. While you are doing this, you also think of your leverage. The more comfortable your target is around you, the least resistance you are going to get when you push your offer back to the table. 5. Push for a decision. Closing your target is the easiest step in this process when you have been successful in building a positive relationship with your target. If you have been able to lead your target through a very effective exchange of information and ideas, you probably have a logical outcome in mind. However, if you know that you have been experiencing different scenarios that prevent you from closing the deal successfully, you should aim to close in the form of still building your relationship. You need to push for a decision that will lead to another appointment and another invitation for you to offer your idea. At the same time, you may also opt to go for a close that will lead to an agreement that would still be very beneficial to you, such as securing an appointment to your target's boss, or to present your ideas to a deciding committee. That will lead you to getting the opportunity to have the invitation to sell to the bigger fish. When you think about it, It is only possible for you to push for a decision that would conform to the type of relationship that you have built. There are times that you have to agree to your target's decision to maintain the traditional roles of the savvy buyer or the purchasing agent because you prompted them to do so and they needed to create a resistance in order to protect their interests. When this happens, you have to keep in mind that you need to determine the outcome of the engagement while you are trying to exchange information with the target and while you are building rapport. Also remember that you have to be flexible with your objectives and make them conform with the events that are about to happen. During an engagement with a target, you may have initially started out thinking that it would be easy to get a contract with him. During the engagement, you may find out that the best deal that you can get out of him is to secure an appointment with his boss, who has the upper hand when it comes to getting you the deal that you want. As you practice more, you will find out that you are able to redefine your objectives more quickly even during the shortest engagements with future contacts. It would enable you to get the most out of your time and always determine the best outcome out of a conversation and grow your network. Chapter 9: The Magic of Language Preference. When you are trying to get another person to agree with you, you may sometimes find that after an exhaustive onslaught of thoughts from you, you find that you feel like you are talking to a total brick wall. Then you may hear another person saying the same thoughts that you have, but instead, they get a positive response. What made the difference? The words that you choose can either create trust or resistance. When you manage to create trust to your audience, they suspend their judgment or gain their confidence, making them listen to anything that you have to say. However, if you invite resistance, you would not be able to have the opportunity to be listened to by your target. The power of the common denominator. The best way to always establish a positive connection with your chosen audience is to always find the common denominator. By looking for your shared interest or create an image that makes you appear similar, you are more likely to be a credible person to your target. If you see commercials that aim to sell a product to different people, you will always see that they are trying to say that no matter how diverse a community is, people would always root for that one product that brings them together. With that said, most people are trying to sell this idea: no matter how different people are, they can be able to offer something that provides a common goal. When you sell ideas that way, you would be able to reach out for the human desire to belong and become a part of a meaningful group. That diminishes the risk of getting objections, because you are appealing to a person's sense of belongingness. People would always respond to you positively because they would see that you are willing to share their values and interests, and since you are just like them, you are more likely to understand their needs. Why most people fail the common denominator approach? There are a lot of people who desire to manipulate or persuade people who are using this approach the wrong way. What they do is this: they obviously spy on people and feign interest, without even meaning it. They see a picture hanging on their target's home that shows a mountain climbing expedition, and they instantly pretend that they have deep passion for that activity, without even knowing what hiking shoes look like. However, most people fail to acknowledge that people can see what's fake or not, and they instantly smell manipulation and deceit. Instead of building a positive relationship, pretending to have a common denominator without a semblance of truth can build walls. If you are trying to find the common denominator with your target and it seems like you can't find anything in common with you, try a different approach. You can still make them feel that you belong in the same group if you are going to choose the right words that would make your target think that you are speaking the way he does. The language choice, your choice of words, whether verbal or written, did not occur to you randomly. You definitely have a reason why you talk the way you do. When you think about it, you choose your words because it allows you to respond with the environment that you are in. At the same time, You only choose to respond to words that you are familiar with or statements that you know refers to the things that you know. That goes the same for other people. When you go to other countries, you know that people are welcoming you if they are trying to teach you how to speak their language or when they are talking to you in English. However, you are very aware that they do not want you inside their homes and establishments when they are trying not to include you in the conversation by using words that are entirely foreign to you. When people use unfamiliar words, you know that there is hostility there. Just the way people talk around you triggers uncomfortable feelings. So here is something that you have to keep in mind. People would like to believe in you and trust you with anything that they have as long as they like you. If a person does not know you at all, he would create an impression of you inside his head according to the words that you utter. You may make it a point that you look presentable in order to look convincing, but people do not really trust a handsome man that does not speak their language. How to take advantage? People often respond according to the senses that they use. You may categorize people to be visual, auditory, or kinesthetic. Here is how you can use language to your advantage when trying to sell these people any idea or product. 1. For visual people, if you are trying to convince a visual person that you are right, think that they tend to get ideas better when they see the entire picture. You may notice that people who are visual tend to leave out some phrases and words as if they are trying to make you imagine. You may think that they sound choppy when they speak, but they have the entire idea in their heads. However, they mostly fail to verbalize their ideas, because most of the time, they can't find the right words to say what's on their mind. Here's how to match their language. Make use of a lot of visual words, and they would feel that you are confidently saying what's on their mind. If that is not the case, they would feel that you are trying to verbalize something that you also picture, and that creates the rapport that you need. It would also help if you aid them using graphs, charts, or any visual representation of the message that you are trying to say. They are more likely to believe you if they see data that you are trying to inform them. 2. For auditory people are the ones that are more likely to be convinced if they hear the information, and they are more likely to like you if you match their tone, and you affirm them by saying phrases like, "Sounds good to me," or, "That statement rings true." You can spot them easily when you hear people trying to explain a statement according to how it sounded to them. They are also the ones who use alliterations and rhymes a lot, because they want a musical ring to their statements. They are also the people who like how they sound. While they can be good listeners, they are in complete contrast with the visual people. They tend to talk a lot. That means that talking to them would be to a great advantage because you can hear a lot of clues regarding their preferences and values. When you are trying to appeal to an auditory target, you may prefer to use the techniques used in most auditory self-help books. Notice that they are mostly packaged with rhyming or alliterative titles, such as The Power of Predictive Persuasion. Should you want to create a powerful impact to your target, make sure that you are gunning for music and words. Auditory people are also the type of people who want opportunities for a dialogue. They would not want to read manuals, and they are not likely to pay attention to any charts, even if the information is right there. They would rather hear it from you, and they would only look at them if you link the materials that you are trying to present them in the conversation that you have with them. They would treat that as a verbal clue, as if they are in a game. You would also want to open up with quotes, or a similar statement that goes well with your argument, preferably from someone that they respect. Should you sell them anything, make sure that you pepper your discussion with testimonials. At the same time, keep in mind that should you need to update them, they prefer that you call them instead of sending an email. They would definitely want to hear from you. 3. For kinesthetic people are those types of possible targets that really like action, or any activity that would make them feel something. They tend to understand you better if you discuss your argument with them by making them imagine and experience the situation within their minds. They are also the types of people who tend to raise questions over and over again until they can trigger an appropriate reaction or a feeling that they can connect to your ideas. Keep in mind that kinesthetic people are those who appear that they have such short attention span. They tend to always move. They keep on stretching their legs and arms every minute, and they seem like they can't stay seated for a very long time. They are the ones who always ask for breaks during seminars. You can also spot them easily by finding people who tend to be pushy or intrusive of personal space. When dealing with these types of targets, make sure that you keep your argument very short and sweet. They want the conversation short, but they also want to hear the entire detail. They want to always hear the specifics and they need them fast. If they do not feel that everything is right there in front of them, they would ask others to deal with the details instead. That means that they tend to jump into conclusion based on their initial reaction, and they tend to think that everything is done before they are aware of everything that they need to know. However, keep in mind that you need to be patient with them. They are very quick to perceive and react to tension. If you want to keep talking to a kinesthetic person, make sure that you give them an activity to keep their body busy and to make them focus their attention to you. Make sure that you deal with them face to face in order to make sure that they have not drifted off to tend to other things in their thoughts, or too busy trying to assess their feelings. They are also the ones who like comfort a lot, so it may be a good idea to bring them out for dinner or coffee. Bonus: how to pace in a digital world. Here's something new: digital pacing. You may find it useful to know how to build rapport in this age, especially since people tend to find information and people using digital means. However, keep in mind that pacing through use of websites or emails would enable you to help your target rationalize the decision that you want them to make, but it cannot possibly sustain a positive relationship. It would still be better to correspond or talk to your target so you can observe their behavior and their preferences when you are trying to build mutual trust. So why learn about this? Sounding like you belong to modernity and that you are business and tech savvy can greatly contribute to your credibility. It makes the target aware that you have substantial information about what you are saying, and you have read or provided the internet good content about it. It also makes you appear current, and that you have the ability to renew the information that they have about the topic at hand, which can renew their beliefs. Should you want to use this to your advantage, make sure that you initially pace with your target through visual, auditory, or kinesthetic means. At the middle of the engagement, insert digital pacing to increase your credibility. Afterwards, resume pacing with them using visual, auditory, or kinesthetic language. Keep in mind that when you pace with different people, remember to subconsciously make their language sound natural in your head. Allow them to somehow change your natural tone, in order for you to truly speak their language. Doing so would prevent you from sounding tongue-tied or clumsy. That would not only protect your comfort, but also ensure your target that you are eloquent with the personal language he chose. Also, make sure that you make your statements simple. Remember that you do not have to have all the words in order to communicate. All you need is to speak according to how the target behaves. Now that you know techniques that would break personal barriers so you can make an opening to push people for actions that would be favorable to you, you now enjoy unlimited advantage over most people that you know and would meet. You have the power to make everyone believe that you would always be credible, which makes you very able to deceive, persuade, or even manipulate people. Keep in mind that practicing all the techniques discussed in this book would not only improve the way you switch from one language preference to another, but also to keep you from looking away from your goal. Always remember that you need to master the awareness of knowing that you have already built the right relationship in order for you to lead the other person into making the decision that you want. Once you have mastered that skill, you would be able to effectively work with people's minds and make them willful to help you fulfill your personal goals. Conclusion. Thank you again for downloading this book. I hope this book was able to help you to learn the fundamental principles of human psychology and specific tactics you can use for manipulation, persuasion and deception. You can use the techniques outlined throughout this book in any place that you go. The next step you have to take in your efforts towards using techniques on manipulation, persuasion and deception is to apply this knowledge every day. Be sure to reread it on a regular basis to remind yourself and make the most of it in your life and achieve your goals faster. Finally, if you enjoyed this book, please take the time to share your thoughts and post a review on Amazon. We do our best to reach out to readers and provide the best value we can. Your positive review will help us achieve that. It would be greatly appreciated. Thank you and good luck. Click here to leave a review on Amazon.com. If you are interested in human behavioral writing, then please subscribe to receive any free publishings, updated and revised books you have purchased, new Amazon releases by this author or authors with similar topics. Subscribe today. Click me if you would like to subscribe today. Thanks again for downloading this book and follow through to my book preview on the next page. Preview of Narcissism Unleashed. The Ultimate Guide to Understanding the Mind of a Narcissist, Sociopath and Psychopath. Chapter 1, Narcissism, Sociopath and Psychopath, Definitions and Distinctions. If you're a fan of true crime or happen to love watching crime shows like Cyan Criminal Minds, chances are you've heard of the terms narcissists, sociopath and psychopath used in reference to murder suspects. But what exactly do they mean? Although narcissism is fairly easy to distinct, the terms sociopath and psychopath are often confused by many people. Narcissism in simple terms. Narcissism is defined as an extreme love for oneself. The term was derived from the name Narcissus, a character in Greek mythology who fell in love with his own image. People who have this personality disorder are often preoccupied with their own triumphs and self-importance, even if there's no proper cause. They expect to be treated as special and believe that they are the object of envy for many. Famous people rumored to be narcissists include Adolf Hitler, Paris Hilton and Joseph Stalin. Sociopath. The simplest way to define a sociopath is someone who suffers from a personality disorder characterized by antisocial tendencies with no moral compass. A lack of conscience is often one of the most common descriptions used for this personality disorder. Known sociopaths include Ted Bundy, Jeffrey Dahmer, and Charles Manson. Psychopaths. Some articles on sociopath versus psychopath identify the latter as the more dangerous of two. Essentially, psychopaths are defined as a severe mental disorder involving violent behavior and antisocial tendencies. Their most defining characteristic is the inability to feel shame, guilt and various other emotions. Serial killers like Ted Bundy and TPK are often identified as psychopaths, although they exhibit more of the characteristics of sociopaths. In many cases, the terms psychopath and sociopath are interchangeable when it comes to identifying serial killers. Sociopath versus psychopath. If you'll notice, the definition for sociopath and psychopath are practically the same. In some instances, there is no clear line separating the two, leading many people to use the terms interchangeably. Extensive studies about the personality disorder, however, have turned up marked differences between the two conditions. Control. When it comes to enforcing control over their actions, Psychopaths are more impulsive compared to sociopaths. The latter tends to plan before pursuing an activity, while psychopaths are more impulsive, deciding to take action on a whim. Tendency towards violence. Psychopaths have a higher tendency towards violence than sociopaths. Social relationships. Both psychopaths and sociopaths suffers from antisocial personality disorder, which means they tend to steer clear of social situations. The difference, however, is that psychopaths find it harder to blend in and incapable of sustaining a relationship. On the other hand, sociopaths are highly capable of maintaining relationships, often collecting a large set of friends. Criminal tendencies. Since they have a high predisposition to violence, psychopaths are more likely to be involved in a physical crime. Their criminal tendencies veer towards impulsiveness, often driven by an in-the-moment attitude. On the other hand, sociopaths are more into planning and take minimal risks. Their goals are often to make sure that exposure is very unlikely compared to psychopaths who rarely consider the risks.